2 down, 2 to go here on our kickoff day of SMITE Masters. We had some NA versus EU matchups. EU teams doing all right, and now we're moving on to an EU versus EU matchup. My name is Dolson. Frog is joining me. And Frog, we're in the throes of our day here today, but quick matches so far. I'm used to the 35 average game time, pushing 45, 50 minutes in some of these games. Seemingly, from some of these teams, the meta has been figured out. We're going to get a second look at the Niflheim Wargs in this game, but a first look at the Solar Scarabs. Solar Scarabs, your #1 seed coming out of the EU SEC. It's Echrome, Dazer, Zyrhoes, WorstTurttle, and Panvich. Feels bad, Matt. That's going to be their head coach. Davey, Predss, GunTTeRR, Rapio, Cxnnahh, and Kara Mikhail, their head coach. So talk to me, Frog. Is this Solar Scarabs team all that's expected? Is this the #1 seed, the world beaters? I know they've had to make some changes on who could make it here at this event. So what are your expectations for the Scarab squad?
Definitely high. Definitely high. I think especially because, like you said, we've seen EU dominating all of today, right? Yep. 3 seed 1, 2 seed 1. Now only EU can win. It's got to be 1 seed versus 2 seed. So no matter what, we get an EU winners. But this Solar Scarabs team, it definitely has a lot to prove, and especially with bringing in these 2 new players, like you mentioned, they're bringing in Dazer for support. Their support couldn't make it out, and bringing in Zyrhoes for their mid lane matchup as well. So a lot of experience coming through on this team, and I think no surprise that they have made it up towards that 1st seed slot.
Yeah.
With everything on the line, not quite yet, but they certainly want to stay into the winner's bracket, and they've gotten a chance to see the meta develop. They got that first game under their belt, right? They got to watch the Wargs play. So if anything, I think they're coming to this game with a little bit of an advantage.
The good news is, if you have to sub in someone for your mid laner, Zyrhoes is a really good option. He's been around, veteran player, not only in SMITE and the EU SEC, of course, for the last couple years, made their way to Worlds as a member of Hex Mambo. But it's when your team has to make those substitutions, you got to lean on veteranship and the remaining players of that squad that have been playing together. The carry on, I guess not the entire other side of the map, but the left side of the map, Echrome for the Solar Scarabs team, going to be a pivotal importance, and Echrome standing by for the pregame interview.
That's right. Dimes here, joined by Echrome of the Solar Scarabs. Echrome, the last time your team fought into the Niflheim Wargs, the Wargs took it home 2-1. It was your only loss of the SEC season. How has your team learned from that experience, specifically facing the Wargs, and how have you pivoted?
Yeah, basically, we had a super bad start because they did something different and we didn't expect it because we didn't have the best practice ever, I guess. But we adapted well for the last set. We made a huge comeback in the standings as well because we should have not won, I think. But it is what it is. We won and feels good.
Now, Echrome, we're halfway through SMITE Masters, day #1 here, brand new patch. From what you've seen as we're halfway through the first day here, is the meta kind of what you expected coming into this tournament, or have you seen some surprises that have kind of made you scratch your head?
The game feels kind of the same. Obviously, everyone is a bit more tanky, but it's still kind of the same. There is some new few picks, but nothing like big.
And Echrome, #1 seed, 4-1 in the split. Scarabs looked great rounding it out. Does that give you and the team confidence coming into SMITE Summer Masters, or are you playing like, it's one game at a time and not affecting your mentals?
Yeah, it's probably more like that because like we are playing with 2 subs. We didn't have a lot of time to practice with Dazer and Zyrhoes. Obviously, they are super good players, so it's good for us. But we are coming like we have no pressure because if we lose, we have 2 subs. If we win, it's perfect. So no pressure, literally. That's good for us.
Appreciate it, Echrome. Echrome from the Scarabs. Back to the desk.
It's a great mental, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a no-loss type of situation. If you sweep the tournament, you say, we did it with 2 subs. If you fall out of the tournament early, you say, we did it with 2 subs. It's the catch-all type answer. Still high expectations for the Scarab squad. And they talked about how, and Dimes, I think, asked a really nice question to the Solar Scarabs about how that was the one loss they had was to this Wargs team, and how do you bounce back? How do you change? It was on a different update. The game was played in a different way at that time. But this Wargs team now, I think you're looking at them after earlier on today. They had a great set against the Tyrian Weavers.
Yeah.
GunTTeRR looked dominant. Rapio showed up in a big way. 3rd seed technically from the EU SEC. But Frog, it looks like a team that could be commanding the respect in this set.
Absolutely. Commanding respect is the exact way that I would push it. And they with the first set of the day, I think they were the first ones to sort of show us what was capable of, or what this new meta is capable of. We see Rapio on some interesting picks at Camazotz in game 1. You know, a ton of pressure that they were able to have here. And you see it on the screen, Rapio was really the one running the game. And I think we had a great quote from Mifflin earlier, adapting in the SEC for a short time. You ask him as he moves back up to the SPL, who did he leave behind? Who's he worried about coming from the EU SEC? Rapio in Cxnnahh sitting up there at the top of the list. And they're both on this team. And I think sure enough, in that set earlier today, we saw them running the backline. You get to free cast as a mid lane in any of these scenarios, you know, especially in a new composition and a new meta. You don't really have to adapt to the meta. If your solo and jungle adapt to the meta and you just get to press buttons, that's you know, that's all that's asked to me. I can play mid in that scenario, and I am not very good. So, you know, it's not a lot to ask when you're setting them up like this. And if Rapio keeps running the map like that, that is one that I'm going to be looking to shut down if I'm on the Scarabs.
That said, it also helps when you or I are not the mid laners and it's GunTTeRR who played incredibly well, right?
Question.
I mean, it's an added benefit that the mid laner is also incredibly good at SMITE. And it's so interesting we're talking about them as the 3rd seed. The final qualifier team in the EU SEC, remember they took the only loss, the only set loss that the Solar Scarabs had all phase long. I think there's a few lane matchups that you can really zoom in on in a matchup like this. I think Rapio versus WorstTurttle, of course, the jungle matchup. In mentioning Zyrhoes subbing into this team versus GunTTeRR, I think could be pivotal here because we've seen the 2v2s in mid and how that kind of tilts things in the middle of the map. We've got more to fight over in the middle of the map now with the Stygian beacons, those sorts of things. Wonder Zyrhoes, his playstyle, how it's gonna slot in here with this Solar Scarabs team. Because again, it's a sub, yes, but I think Frog, if you're going to get a sub, someone who has done a lot of winning, found a lot of success, that is the type of sub that you want to slot in.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, Zyrhoes has had years and years of competitive experience. I think you bring up a good point, though, in how his meta will facilitate this new mid-lane sort of instance, right? You have him on the Chronos and on the Discordia. We saw the Discordia earlier today, but I'm not sure with these big damage mid laners, with the additional space you have in the mid lane, with the pressure you want to have potentially early game on these Stygian beacons. The Chronos is a signature pick for him. I'm not sure how well it slots into this meta. So you definitely have to rely on the team composition, especially in a sub role. You don't have as much practice with the team. You don't have a full 5-man composition that you're looking to play the whole thing through. So you might go back to the comfort picks. And you know, I'm scared of Zyrhoes on Chronos. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But when it comes to composition, definitely going to be an advantage on the other side, as they've just played more together as 5.
I'm thinking as well. Think of Hex Mambo Zyrhoes, end of the year last year, qualifying into Worlds. It was a slower paced team, right? It was a Zyrhoes that would be triple Zyrhoes up until the 25-30 minute point in the game. He's fully farmed though, and then he takes over a team fight at the end of the game.
Right.
The games we've seen today have been 25 minutes and the game is over.
Yeah.
And so that's where some adaptation could be needed from Zyrhoes and the Solar Scarab squad as well. Frog, let's delay no further. Picks and bans for game number 1 between the Solar Scarabs and the Niflheim Wargs kicking off now. Remember, the Solar Scarabs, your number 1 seeded EU SEC team. The Niflheim Wargs, number 3. But the Wargs already a dominant 2-0 set win earlier today against the number 2 North American Tyrian Weavers. So, you know, there's discussion to be had there. Wargs a bit more warm coming into this game, but Solar Scarabs, you've been able to sit back and read the meta just a little bit. And so there is some counterplay over the horizon in that type of atmosphere. Lots of support-centric bans rolling through here. Frog, Kuzenbo, Yemoja, Nox, and now a Kabrakan as well. Heavy support mindset, heavy tank mindset in the first 4 bans.
Yeah, and we've seen these tanks consistently prioritized across the last 4 games. that we've seen. I think every single game we've seen the support and the solo lane get picked up in the top 3 for both sides, right? Picks like this Tyr, like this Terra, like this Yemoja getting heavily prioritized here. And no doubt, we see them get banned. We see the Yemoja and the Terra get taken away as well on the banned sides.
Wow.
And I mean, you mentioned 25-minute games. This might be the outlier of the day, because remember, that's been EU versus NA. EU has had to react to NA trying to put on the early pressure. These are 2 EU teams, and both, storied history, not just in the players, but also in these teams, right? Especially towards the second half of the phase, Scarabs really came up, and they're trying to continue on that hot streak. Wargs trying to keep the hot streak going from a little bit earlier today. But the EU teams both going to be a little bit more hesitant, as they have been in the past, to get things started early on.
The disgusting lack of Titan fights, if I might add. I'm just begging for one. Hachiman, top of the win rate charts, 100%, 50-50 on pick ban. So through 4 games, we've seen a couple bans and a couple picks for Hachiman. He's won both the games where we've seen him. In getting Echrome onto something that he's comfortable with, but is also towards the top of the meta chart, it's always going to be a good thing, because Echrome, again, we talked about one of your carries is a sub. Yes, it's Zyrhoes, but if you're talking about someone who has played with the rest of this team, though Dazer subbing in for Silence, who Echrome had been playing with, that's a conversation you got to have about the support role as well.
For sure.
Changing out could change the dynamic of the dual lane a bit. But what we do know about the Wargs, they want Horus and Baba Yaga. Horus has been towards the top of the frontline tier list competitively for a little while now. Baba Yaga's found her way in there as well, and feels like 2 strong picks to start off the draft for the Wargs.
Definitely. I mean, Horus has that flex potential. You can still put him over there in that solo lane as well as in the support, or you get the little bit of that global pressure. And I think Baba Yaga leans in towards the mid lane pressure picks, or not necessarily pressure picks, but sort of tanky picks that we might be thinking about. And that, in fact, I'm shocked we have not seen like a Zhonghui here after the buff that he got. But Baba Yaga is in that same sort of conversation. You get that prophetic online. You're able to just walk through the fights as if you're a front laner with that home sweet home CC immunity. And no surprise that we've seen her picked and banned a couple of times already today. But on the other side, a little bit interesting, maybe no surprise, we are back to sort of a double hunter composition in this more tank-oriented meta. But this Sobek is not something that we have seen for quite a while, right? You've got the CC set up. You've got 2 forms of CC immunity. The pluck ability is also going to be good, so the Wargs have to be careful the rest of this draft. They're not picking picks that are a little bit too unsafe, susceptible to this pluck. But this, especially if it's placed in the solo lane, has the potential to slow things down significantly in this game 1.
Wonder if the Solar Scarabs may be considering double Guardian, double Hunter type comp. We've seen Sobek in the solo lane in years of past. Could be dual lane Sobek as well. Remains to be seen based on the rest of this composition. Niflheim Wargs, they want to shore up their front line here. Horus plus Tyr Frog, and so a lot of the initiation now opened up for the Niflheim Wargs. We know what they're going to be looking to do. Do you like the combo of Horus plus Tyr for team fights, for picks? What do you think the mindset is going to be?
I like it a lot. I think a lot of times, especially last set, where the Valkyries looked good was when Aquarius was able to rotate over on this Tyr. The Lawbringer, especially when you add the stun to it, has been a fantastic engage tool for that character, so no surprise to see him focused out here. The Horus, a little bit of single target CC, kind of similar to that Sobek pluck in terms of you could maybe get something out of there. But when you're playing a slower game, which, if this is a slower game, the global pressure, the semi-global pressure, really gets more focused on as the Horus. You can be at a Fire Giant at a moment's notice. You can switch Phoenixes on those sieges. You sort of add these tools to your tool belt. And so I think it facilitates a little bit more flexibility on what the Wargs are looking for later in the draft. But I definitely like these frontline picks from the Wargs.
Worth mentioning, a lot of CC immunity in kit for the Solar Scarabs as well. Mounted Archery, Lurking in the Waters, Death from Above. All 3 ultimates so far. Some type of CC immunity and disengage. The Wargs are going to have to try to peel those away, find their openings, find their opportunities outside of that, and hopefully team fight around some ultimates and some relics that are down, because it's a difficult to kill off team on the Solar Scarab side. So far, the Wargs did not want their life to be made more difficult by more CC immunity and more hard-to-kill ultimates, and so World Serpent and Descent into Madness both banned away on the Jormungandr and the Cthulhu, respectively. Similar mindset, though. On the other side, just jungle-centric with the Camazotz and the Fenrir's, the Wargs still needing that pick for themselves. Junglers still needed, we assume, for both teams, unless something crazy is brewing on one side or the other here.
That'd be great.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was referencing, the Sobek jungle. We'd wondered if we would see a little bit of this frog. The magical ADCs, remember the rings, a couple of them. I guess a few, 3 is a few. A few of them got touched up in the most recent update. Olorun going to be the first magical AD carry. I guess yeah, AD carry still stands for magical AD carries, because attack damage is just auto attacks, not physical attacks. But Olorun is it.
There were a couple months there for like 10.4, 10.5 where I admittedly forgot Olorun existed. So to see him back picked here in the second half of this draft, the Wargs definitely have a game plan in mind. Although I think this brings back to the point that you mentioned earlier, a lot of CC immunity, a lot of potential disengage on the other side for the Scarabs, right? I can use a Death from Above from inside an Olorun ult, and it doesn't affect me. I can use a Lurking in the Waters, and it doesn't affect me. If I'm Hachiman, I can get out just as easily. Tell you what, this Kraken, though, is going to come out slower. The stun lasts for a little bit longer. The Olorun...
You really get to look at the animation on that Kraken. It's nice and slow in the sanctified field. Right?
I hope he uses a good skin on the Poseidon. That's really what I'm hoping for. But no, the Olorun changes the team fights drastically. When we see this character come back into meta, it is consistently the sanctified field that we are always talking about. So it's on the Wargs to be using that correctly in the fights.
So the question is, I mean, if you're Olorun, though, I mean, we're talking about miracle, devastating sanctified field where everyone on the Scarabs gets caught out by it.
Right.
But if you're using your ultimate and you're getting all of that defensive utility, you're feeling good, because then you got Horus, Tyr, Thor for a little bit of chase down. So then the ultimate question ends up being that there's going to be a lot of ebb and flow in these team fights. Do the Wargs, in your mind, have enough beads/ultimate burning potential that can set up for one another? Do you think the sanctified field can force enough, and then there's still more to follow up? Do you think there's stuff that can take that away that then allows the sanctified field to flourish? Have the Wargs drafted themselves a CC immunity proof composition?
I think it's tough if you're the Wargs, because you are relying on this Horus and this Tyr to be burning beads and maybe even the Thor wall burning Magi's before the Olorun can get ultimate off. And if we're in a Fire Giant dance, if we're 30, 35 minutes in, you know that both of these teams are not going to put themselves in positions where that can happen, right? Nobody's going to be stepping up and accidentally losing their beads to a Fearless or accidentally losing their beads to a Fracture. Everybody has to be playing disciplined here, and even more so when you consider the consequences are getting caught in a sanctified field. So it's going to be tough, right? It has to be excellent play on field from the Wargs, from the tanks on the Wargs, the engagements from the Wargs specifically, if they're looking to burn the beads. And I'm looking at the other side. They go back to this Poseidon jungle. This might be the focus there if you have to pick an engagement target for the Wargs. Yeah,
I think the conversation should shift over to the Solar Scarabs then, because if we've talked a lot about the Wargs and what they're trying to do with their draft. And I do want to shame Echrome a bit here. We had him in for the pregame interview. His mindset seemed great. Mindset slipping a bit going into game one. He's picked a banned skin, so we're remaking the lobby. So you just have to be patient with us before we get into game number one. And everyone can yell at Echrome all you want, but we'll be getting there. Oh, yeah. Does that look like a face of regret to you, Frog?
Oh, absolutely.
Does that look like someone who regrets their actions?
I think his mental is shattered.
Yeah, it might be.
I think it is completely off the cliff.
But you know what? I was thinking that Echrome had a great mental, because he came in here in the interview, and he was thinking, win or lose, we got 2 subs. We can either rub it in their face that we did this with 2 subs, or we can say, we have 2 subs. But now I'm questioning it. You're right. Now I'm questioning it. A silly mistake, like picking a banned skin. You just can't let that be happening on day one of your Masters tournament. We'll forgive Echrome this time because regardless, we'll be getting into game 1 here in just a moment. Talked about the Wargs and their desire to strip away not only beads, but a lot of CC immune ultimates that the Scarabs have. Let's talk about the Scarabs, though. Is this a team that you can see being on the offensive? We talked a lot about them on the defensive. Is there an opportunity for the Scarabs team to do the initiating against what the Wargs have drafted?
I think the Scarabs draft comes together a lot better than the Wargs draft, in my opinion. I was thinking the Valkyries were sort of in their own world when they picked up the Poseidon jungle. They went towards the double hunter of their own in that Hui in the mid lane. But I like this a lot better in every aspect. I like Hachiman better as a hunter. I like Martichoras better as a mid laner. The tanks that you're relying on, Sobek and Guan, both fantastic at just being annoying in the front line and providing space for this Poseidon to operate behind them. And I think something that we harped on a lot when we saw that last Poseidon jungle game, these Krakens become ever so important because it was your only mage damage. It was your huge source of damage coming out was on these Krakens that were not landing at those critical moments that they needed to. So yes, there's a lot of pressure on the play on field for the Solar Scarabs, but I also just see better things down the line. It's not only the Kraken, it's also the death from above that while you're channeling it, you're avoiding the Olorun ult, and while you're channeling that mounted archery, you're avoiding the Tier Fearless, right? So all of these things come together. I think if the Solar Scarabs get off to a hot start especially, they have a composition that comes together really nicely.
That's a good point. It's not just defensive ultimates, right? It's ultimates that you can use to take a step back but then reinitiates. Sanctified Field comes out, sweet. I'm going to use Death from Above and I'm still going to burn you down while not being affected by it. And those are the types of interactions we'll have to peek at throughout this game. Also worth mentioning, Whirlpool from Poseidon. That cripple is going to affect a few members of the Wargs in pretty negative ways, those that rely heavily on some of their movement abilities. I love talking about Twitch chat and their percentages going into these games because we put up a poll in chat. They get to vote on who they think is going to win each individual game. I want you to get into the mind of Twitch chat right now, and I'm sorry, that's a scary place.
That's a scary.
It is a scary place, and so I don't mean to put you there.
Okay.
The poll comes up right now. You got a whole mountain of viewer or channel points that you get to wager here. Who are you wagering on for game 1?
So I myself, I'm capped out on channel points.
Gotcha.
So,
you got channel points to spend.
I got channel points to spend, which means there's not a lot on the line. However, making those percentages look good. Last game, I don't know if you caught it. Game number 1, Hex Mamba was favored at 69%.
That's a nice number.
Right. We were. I mean, I would love for these numbers to come through and look pretty solid for us. I think if I'm a Twitch chat viewer though, that is all that I'm thinking about, and so
gotcha.
I am.
You're
just
watching it.
Right. And just to be clear, this is not me. This is a
You're in the
Twitch
mind
chat.
of Twitch chat.
If
right.
I am in the mind of a Twitch chat viewer, I am hopping on the bandwagon immediately. Right. I am looking at who is the more popular team, and I am putting my channel points there.
And right, because it's just a big hive mind, right?
Absolutely.
And you're right in the right mental space, I think, looking at that.
And that was tough. I really had to come out of my shell for
Are you
that.
back with us now?
I'm okay.
Are you with us?
I'm okay. I think I'm okay.
Frog is returned from the depths. He's back with us here on the desk. I think the Wargs, it's interesting because you talk about the ebb and flow, the dynamic of teams that have to play multiple games or multiple sets within a day. These are best of 3s. It was a really quick turnaround for the Wargs. They had a speedy 2-0 to start their day. And then, an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours of a rest and a turnaround before they play later in the day. So it's not like you had the first and last sets. And so you didn't have that much time to cool down and sit around. Admittedly, I'm not sure how much of an impact that is really going to play. Maybe game 1, they start off a bit more hot. Maybe the Solar Scarabs take a bit of time to get swinging here. Give me some shout-outs here, Frog, in your mind. You look at the picks, maybe the players, but I'll focus on the picks specifically. Who do you think carries a lot of the weight here for the Niflheim Wargs? Is it just straight-up Thor? Is it always going to be the jungle in your mind? Level 5, you need to see those Anvilodons?
I think for the Solar Scarabs, oh, nope, you mentioned Thor. I think for
the
Niflheim Wargs, it's definitely going to be Thor, right? Rapio ran game number 1 earlier today on that set, and I think we are absolutely looking to him to be able to run this game if the Wargs come away with it. On the other side, though, I think I'm looking at the subs, as crazy as it sounds. I think I'm looking at Zyrhoes and I'm looking at Dazer, because those are maybe the two interesting picks. We haven't seen Martichoras yet today, and we haven't seen Sobek yet today. And those are coming through as comfort picks for the two new mid laners, or rather two new players that we have on these two teams. So I am looking at Zyrhoes, I'm looking at Dazer to fit into these team compositions nicely, fight as a squad, and really utilize the strengths of these characters. I think their team fight can flow really, really well. It's not going to be on any one member, but how these fights get started is critical for the engagements on both sides.
Feels bad Matt steps in as coach for this event and clearly has the team off on a good foot as far as drafting and as far as pick and banning goes. Good news and bad news. The bad news is that we don't get to hang out with Frog and Dave anymore. The good news is that we're going into game one, and it's Dimes and Trelly on the call.
Europe undefeated so far here in day number 1. That's about to come to an end. That streak finalizing here as the Solar Scarabs take on the Niflheim Wargs in this European grudge match. You got Dimes, you got Trelly. Got our good pal Doug spectating. And Trelly, a couple things I want to zero in on here.
Please do.
Really, Des didn't leave us much to chit-chat about here. But you know what? I've got a few things that I'd love to zero in on. And let's start off on this left-hand side of the screen here. WorstTurttle taking this Poseidon into the jungle. We just saw Sam for Soccer do the exact same thing. Didn't exactly pan out for the jungler from North America. What makes this different for the jungler for the Scarabs?
I mean, first and foremost, 70%. That's unlucky. Frog tried his best, and that just makes me
1% off. That's close.
It's close.
Like, I applaud Twitch chat for that effort.
I applaud them from trying. But in this case, I do think, the buffs to Poseidon have been, I'm not going to say fantastic. They've been nice. He gets the extra damage in the trident, the attack speed, that sort of thing. And with the wing shard, he can swing. He can absolutely swing.
Sure.
But my issue with Poseidon has always been, number one, he's very easy to lock down, doesn't have beads. Picks like Thor, for example, really can just make his life miserable. And secondly, it's become a bit of a meme at this point, but getting value out of the Kraken. It's still at times hard to do.
You got to Kraken like an SPL player.
And that's the meme, and that's my point. So if you're not getting profuse value, not just hitting the Kraken, you need to hit multiple targets or pull relics, then the pick, in my mind, is not worth. We'll have to see exactly how WorstTurttle plays, because we know he's very talented. And in this case, quick farming. That's my answer, though. Poseidon really does zoom around the map still. Spamming his trident consistently, get a Doom Orb online. You're going to be at least remain even with the enemy jungler, but likely trying to get ahead.
Rapio and GunTTeRR, expect them to put tons of pressure on this immobile Poseidon early game already. GunTTeRR targeting out the Poseidon more than the wave here. Now flipping on over to the Niflheim Wargs. iDavy, as hold on just a second, Predss gets plucked in. A little bit of damage goes out to the support for the Niflheim Wargs. But I want to talk about this Olorun. The grapevine is split, Trelly. I've heard half the players I've talked to, magical ADCs are out, they're not coming back, not going to happen. The other half seem to think there's some potential there. Where do you land on that?
I was definitely leaning more towards the magical ADCs outdated, long have we waited, physical hunters, debated, whatever, that sort of thing.
Sure.
But I don't think that Olorun has always been in that mix, because sure, he's a magical ADC, but his teamfight presence can be pretty solid, right? If you're just sitting back, because how most ADCs are working as of recent has been, we're going to sit underneath tower. We're not going to look for 1v1s. We're going to get to level 20, then we rotate out. If that's the case, Olorun can do that pretty well. His ultimate has always been the real talking point for this character. But there's still better options. The Hachiman is always going to be at the top of the charts as far as his buffs have been the way they have been. So I'm thinking Echrome should have an easy time in lane. It's just, can Davey make that his money's worth once he rotates into these team fights?
And last thing I want to talk about here is compositional-wise for both these squads, Trelly. Zyrhoes on the Marty. When I think of Zyrhoes, I'm thinking about the Chronos, I'm thinking about things like Discordia, I'm thinking about these big burst magical ADCs.
Right.
Do you like someone like Zyrhoes on the Marty just for the standard meta pick, or would you like to see someone who's so talented on niche picks take one of those into the middle lane?
Well, I do like to chase this thread a little bit, because I consider Marty a mid lane hunter, right? He's a burst hunter through and through. He's not going to take you down. You're going to step up late game, you're going to get half health. So in that regard, as long as you're hitting your skill shots, as long as you're able to hit the explosion damage, he's pretty much just a burst mage that does physical damage and provides plenty of shred. With that being said, though, Zyrhoes does have a lot of tenure in the league. He's been playing at the SEC level and even before that at the SPL level for such a long time, which means that he's got so much practice on those burst mages you've been talking about. But I'm never going to say no to a Marty pick. I just think he's so strong and so safe. And the stealth graph just brings a mechanic to the game that, you know, not everyone can be ready for. You have to check every single patch of grass you show up to in the jungle, especially when you're trying to like siege a Phoenix and things like that. So I've got no problems with anyone picking Marty.
Predss and Davey locking down Dazer here, forcing that pluck away out of the crocodile.
He's a crocodile for
not
sure.
An yeah.
No, definitely not an alligator.
Alligators are locked to north. Anyways, crocodile gets out of danger here. Taking over to level 5. Poseidon, level 5, cracking online. Same thing goes for Thor with that Anvil of Dawn. If you had to put your pressure, I think actually, I was just about to ask you a question, but Rapio kind of answering a little bit preemptively here, making his way over to the left-hand side, looking for WorstTurttle. Finds a wall, a little bit of lockdown, using the hammer for movement, no follow-up there. But with that Anvil of Dawn online, I mean, we heard the desk talking about it. Thor is going to be a difference maker for Rapio here, the Niflheim Wargs. Dazer knocked up. Here. Big time damage. Rapio in the air. Is he even going to need to crash down? As Davey puts the finishing touches on First Blood, Rapio says, I'm here, baby. Echrome forced out of the beads there.
That's
and a good rotation from Rapio there. Doesn't help out with the kill, but grabs a pretty priority relic.
Yeah, I mean, getting the beads after the fact is great because Echrome, you know, he wanted to get aggressive. He wanted to step forward. He saw Dazer did not hit over to level 5. Recognized, I can't help you. I'm going to back up. And you just look up in the sky and you still lose your beads after dropping First Blood, especially giving the kill over to Davey. Not a great look for the duo lane. This Olorun with the lead can be nasty. But with that being said, WorstTurttle knows, hey, there was some action on the left side of the map. Maybe the right side of the map is free. Possibly have an opportunity for a Kraken. Maybe don't even need it.
What fantastic lockdown. I mean, the perfect cavalry charge there, locking down Cxnnahh. You got to love that. I mean, no Kraken online, so it doesn't even have it available if he wanted to. But even if he had it available, you got to love that you could hold that in your pocket.
Yep, did not need it and used it elsewhere. So at this point, you're fine with grabbing that kill. Unfortunately for Cxnnahh, that ultimate Lawbringer's not going to get you out of trouble. And as you said, Panvich knew, hey, as long as I stun and make sure we can lock him down, make sure he's in the whirlpool, he's going to be forced to ult away. And of course, WorstTurttle had plenty of damage to confirm that one. So answering back, both of these junglers have been trying to find some aggression. Of course, Rapio shows up late to the party over and left, doesn't actually get credit for an assist or anything like that, but still pulled the beads off of Echrome, and once again, Davey got credit for that kill. So I'm seeing pressure in different sides. Maybe the Scarabs are going to try and play through the right side of the map because their duo lane still not looking great. Dazer actually down 2 levels right now. Yeah. Still does not have an ultimate. I mean, if you're relying on your pluck for CC immunity, that might be a little bit of trouble. Whereas the opposite side, Cxnnah's going to be a little bit behind, but the tier, known for safe clear. I would say that as long as you're able to get a little bit of magic prod online, because WorstTurtle has shown some propensity to go into the right side of the map, you know, one gank's not going to be the end of the world.
You know, Charlie, what we just saw here, it's 1-to-1, sure, but Rapio came out on top. Obviously wasn't needed in the left-hand side, but he ganked first, and then WorstTurtle rotated over to the solo lane. If WorstTurtle is going to keep playing reactively to Rapio on this Thor, I think it goes Thor's way every single time, right? Not necessarily because of the character, but because of the players. Dazer's forced to pluck into the wall and knock up from Predss. A smash down from the Thor. Puts one in the pocket of the jungler for the Niflheim Wargs. Kraken used. Kraken not enough damage though. Rapio's not quite done with WorstTurtle. Zyrhoes has made the rotation for mid. Predss goes down to the might of Marty. WorstTurtle picks up one for themselves. And it's turned right back around on the Niflheim Wargs.
Wow, I mean, I was about to highlight the fact that I talk about this a bit in the SPL when supports are very, you know, starved for farm. Dazer is currently half the level of pretty much everyone on the side of the Wargs. I mean, 4 to 8, even 9 for GunTTeRR.
Yeah.
But a beautiful rotation from Zero says, hey, it doesn't matter. You can keep killing our level 4 Sobek. You're not getting anything for it. You're too far ahead. We were still going to be able to get active. WorstTurtle trying to find Cxnnahh. That ultimate gets used immediately because Cxnnahh got smart, warded up, made sure to know exactly where that Poseidon was, but does get the Lawbringer down. But as you said, Rapio getting active on the left. WorstTurtle tries to go over to the right, was able to confirm a kill over on the left side of the map, shows up late to the party. But that's kind of the benefit of this Poseidon. Even if you show up a bit late, you can get there fast enough. If you pop that Trident, you get that Zoom Orb online, you can still say, hey, I see Anvil of Dawn, I'll be there, just try and stall for me.
You combine Zyrhoes on the Smarty and WorstTurtle on the Poseidon, and I mean, you called it, that is a burst ADC through and through. That is just a ton of damage dropped in the matter of a second. But GunTTeRR on this Baba Yaga got an item online, no stacks just quite yet. Might go into that prophetic cloak or something like that because Baba's just so good at stacking. Come 15-20 minutes, Baba Yaga is going to be 100-0 in characters on the side of the Scarabs.
Yeah, certainly has that possibility. I think that Baba takes a bit to get online, and that might be the difference maker. Of course, Zero says, hey, I've got Transcendence. I've arrived. Like, Marty is here. Baba might need a little bit more time. The Spear of Death was a great start. And, of course, I think if GunTTeRR wanted to get aggressive, has the ability to do so. but definitely likes to lean towards that late game. Once you get a Prophetic Cloak online, if you would like to go towards it, which pretty much everyone does, it's just free survivability, which is, you know, hard to come by. Echrome might get walled off here, though, and the mounted archery can't get you out that way, so we'll have to go back towards his own tier 2 tower, but loses the ultimate and the beads. These walls have been on point. Rapio's not going to let Echrome get any sort of freedom.
I mean, if you're Echrome, you're just thinking your lucky stars there. You've got a horse to gallop away what feels like a mile and a half.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's reminiscent of... I mean, I can't even think of maybe Heimdall is an ADC that is a little bit safer, but CC Moon, hop on a horse, goes forever, gets you away out of the grasp of the Niflheim Wargs there. As we're approaching 10 minutes in this game number 1 between the Solar Scarabs and the Niflheim Wargs. It's 3-2. Solar Scarabs lagging behind just a wee bit in gold here. Shouldn't be too difficult of a gap to make up. And when you're thinking about this solo in here, Cxnnahh and Panvich, 2 of the more premier names over in the European SCC team, come 12 minutes when we first see the spawns of that Stygian beacon thing.
Yeah, that
You see
works.
rotations out of the solo lane, or you think they'll hang over there on the island and kind of farm up for later?
The way I see it, the beacon fight can be attributed to, hey, do you have teleport? Can you get over here? If so, then we are going to go all out. And if not, it might just be more beneficial to split push. You know, in this case, Cxnnah's a bit behind, right? Cxnnah's fell down to a gank. Cxnnah might say, hey, I'm just going to chill over here and farm. You guys can fight if you would like, but I'm going to split push. I want to get itemization. Or the opposite could be true. Hey, we need to get this going. It really just depends on, you know, what your team decides. More often than not, though, these solo laners, I'm not going to say play selfish, but
I'll say it.
Okay, play a little selfish. They want to get their own itemization online.
Sure.
And they're going to say, hey, it might be more worth if I just push 2 waves under tower. You know, let them go ahead and rotate. I'm going to sit back. I'll get you guys totem. You know, that'll help out a bit. That's a pseudo buff
like
for
20
the time
gold in your
being.
pocket.
Exactly. And, you know, we'll have to see exactly how these teams decide to play. It's not the end-all, be-all, though. It's not like, hey, we gave up a gold fury. It's not as important, I would say, in the early.
Horus, such a safe god that Predss gets out of there no problem. WorstTurttle making the rotation over to the left-hand side, just in case Dazer could find a little something with that pluck on the Sobek here. 10 minutes, we got neutral buffs coming online here. WorstTurttle locking down. Rapio beats Force, so Kraken doesn't totally connect there. Oh, Tide almost takes down the jungler, but Guns turns it right back around onto the Poseidon and finds a kill for the Baba Yaga. Predss not quite done with Dazer here. Davy following that right up. And pressure across the map, Trelly, as Davy and Predss are looking for a purple on the left-hand side.
Man, that title surge did no sort of damage. I think WorstTurtle's maxing the Trident in that case because
Sure.
I expected much more burst to come through. It even connected at the tail end. I was like, man, that could be a kill. Doesn't end up working out. Predss goes to the sky just to take Davy out of trouble. Was a little bit worried about how far they were going for that buff. And yeah, 1 point in the title surge. If you max your 1, that's a kill there.
Oh,
but in
for
this
sure.
case, you want that 2 for farm. Of course, your 3 is just so good for lockdown. It really does depend. I've asked so many different junglers about Poseidon leveling, and almost every one of them has a different answer. It's really just what you're feeling. And with the buff to Trident, you can do big damage, but you're not going to have that follow-up damage if the Kraken beads comes through, which Rapio was able to go for. And that ends up costing WorstTurttle the gank and his life.
Stygian Beacon coming up in just about 30 seconds here. You know, I was taking a look at that Poseidon with that Tier 2 Doom Orb, and a lot of prophesizing about the Tier 2 items and how strong they were and how many items are we going to see finished off at Tier 2 essentially, right?
Yep.
And just starting to the next one, but really haven't seen it too much here in games 1 and 2, or sets 1 and 2 rather, of SMITE Masters. Doom Orb, one of the items, a couple of power items, but really it seems like players are more than happy to finish them off.
I mean, Doom Orb is one of those items that you still do get like immense value out of the Tier 2. You still are able to stack it up. But look at this Gold Fury attempt. The Kraken is available for confirm, but Davy sniffs this out. He's going to step forward. He could make this slow motion if he would like to, and that's enough to scare off the Scarabs for now.
It was a smart idea, right? One team goes for the beacon immediately at the 12 minutes. You're trying to sneak a GF, but just heads-up play there from the Niflheim Wargs. Zyrhoes gets dropped way down there, forced off the objective. And the Niflheim Wargs, a 5-man unit at 12 minutes and 30 seconds, have got this beacon number 1 locked down.
Well, I got to give credit to Cxnnahh. I said might play selfish. I was wrong. Does make the rotation over, and who was not far behind but Panvich. So both of these solo laners did decide to make the trek over. Ends up going the way of the Wargs, but that Gold Fury is still available. That was attempted to pull by the Scarabs. Davy showed up, heads up play, has some vision over towards that objective. It seems like nothing's being snuck here. Actually, Predss was attempting to go to the skies, but looks like it's heading over to the Fury. They're going to walk over at the last second. They're going to try to burn through it. How quickly can the Scarabs arrive? I don't think they can.
Oh, the Solar Scarabs are not even close. GunTTeRR uses the ultimate. Davey throws out the field as well. Solar Scarabs are moving into place, but the Gold Fury is going to drop down to the Niflheim Wargs. First neutral objective, or I guess second now with the Stygian Beacon. Second neutral objective, the first Fury, goes the way of the Niflheim Wargs and catapults that gold lead to a generous 2.7K.
And I would argue that's the best way to use Horus ult. If
Yeah,
with bird's eye view, am questioning what you're doing, you got to assume the Scarabs are like, wait, where are they? Are they diving us? Are we dead right now? Are they leaving? What's going on? And then before you know it, everyone hops on at the last second. Predss brings the team in, hop in the school bus. We got a Gold Fury to go to, and they're able to grab it. So now the Wargs are going to chill for the moment. Pyromancer has spawned in. That could be the next objective that these teams are after. But there's been a lot of pluck attempts. I do think that the Scarabs are more so looking for action. They want to fight, they want to kill, whereas the Wargs are happy to play the farm game and just force these objectives whenever they can.
So far this Sobek, it's the first time we've seen it, this Masters event. We're only in, game number 5 here, but Sobek is not one that I expected to come out this quickly, as the Niflheim Wargs are starting up a Pyromancer here quickly, burning it down with the shred coming through from Rapio. Cxnnahh blinks in, just looking to distract the rest of the Solar Scarabs. While their team cleans up the Pyromancer, Wargs grab yet another objective that goes their way. Panvich a little bit late there. And it's only a matter of time, Trelly. I mean, if Niflheim Wargs keep going at this clip, they're going to build that gold lead, they're going to build an XP lead, and before you know it, the Solar Scarabs are going to be defending Tier 2 towers.
And that's what you have to work about. I mean, if you're giving up Pyromancer this early on, it's not so much the gold that Pyro gives, it's what's being done with the Runic Bomb. If Predss immediately groups up and says, hey, we're just destroying a Tier 1 tower, and we're going to make that, what was a small little Pyromancer turn into a bigger gold spike, that can be scary for the Solar Scarabs. So probably have to watch out exactly where Predss decides to position himself on the map. And knowing that he is Horus means he could be halfway across the map before you even figure out where he was. So you have to watch out where that Runic Bomb is going to get its value from. But you're right, the Wargs have been trying to build up that snowball. So far, it's gotten decent size, but could be catastrophic if they're able to grab a Primal Fury, translate that into a Fire Giant fight, things like that. And I think the Solar Scarabs still do have plenty of tools to try and slow that down, right? Zyrhoes, top XP in the game. He's sitting at level 16. This Marty has been a threat. Panvich was sitting just fine in lane. You get the Guan to rotate in. He's got some nice heals that, the anti-heal has been a question so far this game, and only Divine Ruin has been picked up here for GunTTeRR. Those are team fight tools that could really help out if the Scarabs decide to get active, but it's been a lot of this. Just the Wargs overpowering, outmanning, and saying, hey, we showed up, we're going to get the objective and get out scot-free.
With that rotation to the left-hand duo lane, Rapio helps out his buddies, snag a Tier 1 tower. That goes the way of the Niflheim Wargs. And we're not deluded here, Trelly. I mean, just the quickest glance at the Solar Scarabs composition, they're built for a team fight, right? They're not built for, Thanatos, early game ganks, plucks into explosion. They're built for the 5v5, Zyrhoes, and the Kraken, and Echrome coming through. Same thing with Panvich. This is built for a 5v5 engagement. We didn't expect either of these teams to win in the first 15 minutes. They're both too experienced for that. So it's no surprise that we're just about at parity here as we clip over the 15-minute mark and head towards 20. Cxnnahh wrapping around the backside here of the Solar Scarabs. Great potential for a Fearless, but going to back right off. Panvich might be a little bit out of position here as it's a 5v5, first one of this contest. Great Kraken goes on to Davey, however, it only catches one, and it's Aegis out. Zyrhoes getting slammed down on by Cxnnahh, immediately forced into the air. A late Olorun ultimate going to force out the Solar Scarabs there. Davey picks up Dazer, WorstTurttle, escaping by the skin of their teeth there, and the Niflheim Wargs looking pretty healthy for winning that fight.
Yep, they decide to go for the dive. They grab another Tier 1 tower, and they're able to grab that pick onto Dazer, who unfortunately has been dubbed the sacrificial lamb of the Solar Scarabs. He goes in for a pluck defensively and is still not able to close gap and get away because of that Olorun ult, that sanctified field. Make sure that you're never too far out of trouble. But it's just going to be a Tier 1 tower. I think it could have been a little bit worse. Once Cxnnahh actually had that rotation in, didn't have the blink up. It was up in about 8 seconds. Was trying to stall it out. Panvich said, hey, there's probably a tier behind you guys. Just be a little careful. And they were able to sniff that one out and only lose relics onto Zyrhoes and the ultimate, of course. But I think losing his life a lot more worthwhile. Primal Fury's back up, but look how far up Echrome is. He might be getting caught out here. Does have the ultimate, but a good wall from Rapio is only going to get some damage. Had a little bit of opening, so Echrome was able to weasel his way out.
The entirety of the map flooding over to this left-hand side. Dazer dropped down, is so weak compared to other members on the map. 6 levels behind the mid lane Baba Yaga there, as Primal Fury getting absolutely shredded by the Niflheim Wargs. Zyrhoes up into the air defensively just to get out of dodge. Dazer at half HP. Cxnnahh juggling. Dazer there into the Kraken. Able to escape though. Rapio comes down. Fury has been dropped. Picks up the first one onto Dazer. Able to escape there just barely. Cxnnahh finds one onto Zyrhoes as well. And two big sources there of teamfight potential, and Zyrhoes and Dazer wiped off the map. The Niflheim Wargs walk it right back to the Primal Fury. Gonna grab this one with no problem.
This is what I was talking about. Fight on the Primal Fury goes poor. They're able to grab that objective, and look at Predss. There's no way they're ulting to fire. It's gotta be Pyromancer. I don't even think you can make it all the way over to Fire Giant. But still, trying to speed up his team, continue this snowball in their favor. The Wargs, I mean, everything has been coming up Wargs. And I think a little bit of a sketchy call by the Scarabs to even fight there. If you remember the fight they had previously in mid lane, all their relics were down. I mean, Zyrhoes had to walk up with nothing and try and defend that objective. He used Death from Above defensively, just at some poke damage, and then he gets run down pretty much immediately. And of course, Dazer has never been tanky this game. Nope. He's got 2 items to his name, whereas Predss, he's got a full 3. The XP differential is not going to be the biggest deal until 15 when you get those upgraded starter items, but trying to be a Sobek in the front line is just so difficult when you're behind. You pluck in, they beads, you die. If they don't beads, hopefully your team has your back and you're probably still going to die.
Predss locking down Zyrhoes here. GunTTeRR with follow-up, but right into the air goes Zyrhoes, able to escape. WorstTurttle backing up the mid laner there. Here comes Dazer with a pluck onto Predss, but that's not the perfect target you'd love to grab there if you're Sobek, so able to get out as Predss, no problem there. And speaking of WorstTurttle, I mean, it's like you said, priority, really valuable Kraken. So far, we've only seen a Kraken onto 1, maybe 2 people, right? Yep. The last one was onto Davey, who was immediately Aegis out. We haven't seen these crazy 3-man explosions that have really turned teamfights on their head for the Scarabs.
And it's hard to find. I think that the Wargs have been splitting up pretty well. As long as you're able to diversify your DPS, and Rapio to the sky kind of dives the backline. The gap between how far WorstTurttle can get to the backline and how safe he is, it starts to get real close real fast. This Poseidon has essentially met a wall from Rapio and then has to double relic and run away, and I imagine that will continue as he stays just a little bit behind itemization-wise. Only 3 items to his name, whereas Rapio is working on that Blood Forge, but has been able to stay relatively even XP-wise. Just so many objectives going the way of the Wargs, and they would like to continue that streak. Vision on the side of the Fire Giant, still in favor of the Scarabs at the moment, but probably because Davy's over on left still. I imagine this Olorun hits level 20, upgrades to Diamond Arrow, and then immediately I want to see him out of Duo. There's no reason for Olorun to be on the left side of the map once you upgrade that starter item. It's Fire Giant time, and if you have a lead like this, you don't want to give the Scarabs any second to try and climb back in this game.
Well, Davy's just about there. Almost to level 20, 2-0-3, looking pretty good on this Olorun, and proving that 50% of the grapevine wrong who said magical ADCs just were not it. Some impactful fields there coming out of the Olorun, slowing down the team fight, creating space as the Niflheim Wargs group up around this Fire Giant, grabbing some vision, seeing if anyone from the Solar Scarabs is about to pick, make this an easy Fire Giant pickup. But the Niflheim Wargs in clear control of this game, working on a 7-8K lead. Levels up across the board as Dazer, the sacrificial crocodile, yanked in once again, goes down to the Thor. Kraken used just to try to get Dazer out of there. Is it going to work though, Trelly? And now it's a 4v5 for the next, luckily, 20 seconds because Dazer is level 12.
Yep, but unfortunately, you lose your best steal opportunity. I mean, the Kraken is down. It's up to, I guess, Zyrhoes to try and step forward, but once again, Cxnnahh sieges forward and Rapio lands on the ground, getting death from above. They're just taking away all the defensive tools the Scarabs have, all the while, Fire Giant still being pulled. Niflheim
Wargs shredding away this Fire Giant. Solar Scarabs just simply not in position. Panvich taking a look at it here, but knows there's absolutely no shot for a cavalry charge to make anything happen with 4 members of the Wargs, I should say, taking down the Fire Giant and opening up their first real opportunity this game to do some major pushing on these tier 2 towers.
And the Scarabs are doing their best at this point. let's go to the left side of the map. Anywhere the Wargs are, they need to not be. They need to find free farm, not contested farm. Don't get close to anyone. Look at Cxnnahh already saying, hey, I'm not even going to give you a tier 1 tower. You don't get the smallest amount of gold that you can obtain right now. We're going to make sure that doesn't happen. And that's confidence in the team saying, hey, they're 4 men all the way at the tier 2 tower, and I know they're not going to get ganked on. So I'm just going to make sure that there's no gold the Solar Scarabs can pick up. There's still some power spikes that could be had before you're looking at Phoenix territory. There's only 1 Runic Bomb in play, so still could be difficult 22 minutes in to really siege a bird, as long as, Echrome and WorstTurttle and Zyrhoes are able to stay relatively far back. It really is just Dazer. You know, having 5 deaths on one character makes his life pretty miserable, but Panvich is tanky. You know, this Guan, you can stand at the front of the fight. You still have good DPS from Zyrhoes, as we've seen, when he doesn't get just completely dove by Cxnnahh. So I think your Phoenix Siege looks a lot better than your jungle fight right now if you're the Solar Scarabs. I'm
liking how clean this is coming out of the Wargs. You grab a tier 2 tower on the... Okay. SPL level Krakens, baby!
He camped the red button. And you know what? I respect it. He was like, hey, at the very least, I miss. At the best, I get a kill, and like maybe he forgets to Aegis.
I don't even think a kill happens there, though.
No, never. Of course
like,
not. I'm saying a best case scenario.
Oh, like miracle, stars align.
Yeah, exactly. Like, hey, I need. Like, what happens if this messes up? I lose my Kraken and maybe I die, but I can try and open up a door for us to kill GunTTeRR, who has been, you know, just unkillable so far this game, 1-0-4. But unfortunately, GunTTeRR said, hey, I want red buff, but I don't want it that bad. I can just backstep the Kraken and then walk in and grab it after.
Gold Fury goes the way of the Niflheim Wargs, and we've approached that precarious 10,000 gold mark here, Trelly, where it's no longer on the Niflheim Wargs to, the Solar Scarabs to win this game. It's on the Niflheim Wargs to completely throw it, like out the window. Echrome, Dazer, and Panvich looking to defend this tier 2 tower. Zyrhoes stepping up as well. Cxnnahh wrapping up behind. It's just a question of how many can be caught in the Fearless. It's going to be Dazer who's able to pluck away from danger there and not add a 6th death to that slash mark. The Niflheim Wargs shoving forward now on this left-hand side. It's only 3 birds and 1 tower defending the Solar Scarabs Titan. In goes Cxnnahh, up goes Zyrhoes. Predss getting forced out. Same thing goes for Davy, and this is a good defense out of the Solar Scarabs here. Cxnnahh dropping down to Zyrhoes. GunTTeRR taking out Dazer in the meantime.
WorstTurttle?
Niflheim Wargs, wait for it, WorstTurttle able to get out with the help of an Aegis there. And what a defense out of the Solar Scarabs. Bird online with a sliver of HP as well.
It did seem like a risky call to try and go for. I'm guessing because Predss had the double runic bombs, they said, hey, we can step forward, we can go for this fight. But there's still tier 2 towers up in mid. This is still very early on to attempt to siege a Phoenix even with a lead like this. Didn't seem like something that needed to happen. More of a, let's do a damage check. We're going to drop our Sanctified Field and see if that's enough to confirm a kill. And of course, one more death onto Dazer.
Tough.
Is nice, but it wasn't able to break the base. That double runic bomb from Predss just was not able to kill that Phoenix. And because of that, we're going to go for the full-on reset here. Fire Giant buff has almost worn away. Probably have time for 1 attempted siege in the meantime. But I'm thinking we're going to be setting up for a Fire Giant fight next up because, again, these Phoenixes can be tough to try and siege this early on.
Niflheim Wargs got this game in their laps, just looking to put the finishing touches on it here. Stygian Beacon, the final Stygian Beacon goes the way of the Wargs as well. So it could see some Titans marching down the lane here, Charles.
I would like to see some sort of Titan fight, but one thing that did come into play there was WorstTurttle was off split pushing, and then he was able to make a sort of gank. It was from the front. They could see him, but he stood back for a while. Maybe try to set up an ambush with the Kraken here again. Relic-wise, not looking too good. Just about everyone's got everything available on the side of the Wargs, but not knowing where that Kraken's coming from could benefit the Solar Scarabs. If WorstTurtle's able to sneak away and then try and come back from behind with a Kraken, that could be a way to try and make this Titan fight, I'm not going to say go in their favor, but at the very least double down. That's what they're looking for, right? Stalling, trying to get late game.
Chaos Titan stomping down middle lane. Cxnnahh is the recipient of a Kraken out from WorstTurttle. That's a big team fight. Ultimate down now on the side of the Solar Scarabs, and it's going to be a second before it's back online. Niflheim Wargs marching down the middle lane here with the boss of the game, the Chaos Titan. As they're pressuring this tier 2 tower, the Solar Scarabs are just... Wow, that's so rude.
I know.
Can you imagine?
The Titan's like, hey,
leaving the Titan, that couldn't be me.
Yeah, if I die, you guys literally lose, and you just left me out to die in mid lane.
Did the Scarabs just win?
No.
Did they just come back and take game number 1 off of that play?
Unfortunately, that is not how you win. You have to kill this one.
Oh,
but
my bad.
In this case, they just disrespected him. They said, hey, the tier 2 tower's never going to drop, and we're going to have to go on back to base. But like I said, Fire Giant is where this game is going to be won or lost. That was that push was just a bit of a damage check, a bit of a, hey, let's see how hard they go, and let's see if we can even go in for the tier 2 tower. It doesn't end up working out, but the Solar Scarabs have shown their hand. There are 4 members of their team on the left side of the map, and Zyrhoes is closer to mid. Fire Giant's nowhere near the left side of the map, so that's going to be another free objective going the way of the Wargs. They said, hey, if it's not enhanced, we like our chances trying to defend under Phoenix at least one more time.
And scrapping back to seriousness here, Trelly. Buttoning up my jacket here.
Okay.
realistically, the Solar Scarabs, if they have any chance of winning this game, you can't fight objectives, you can't fight tier 2. Is it just like 3 Miracle Phoenix defenses in a row, wiping the Wargs every time, and then marching down one of the lanes themselves? Or is there literally not a world where the Solar Scarabs fight their way back into game 1?
I don't think it's so far out of the realm of possibilities. Everyone's level 20. Again,
sure.
This is, I hate to really push it on Dazer, but it is just, Dazer's a big part of the gold differential, right? The carries have been able to get relatively online.
Sure.
They're close to power spike, so hoping that the Wargs mess up going for siege is certainly a win con, but you're not ending off of 1 siege here with the tier 2s up. You're going to have to stop them twice, I would imagine, and the Wargs can play this safe. I would like a split push here, a 5v5 over on right. Phoenix, they have so many tools. Predss could ult over to left. They could bring the waves in. They still have a tier 2 in mid. I don't like the call to just try and overwhelm them with Sanctified Field, and it looks like the Wargs don't like it either. They're going to back off, grab the tower, and then I want to see Predss go left to right. I mean, that's got to be the call. Their first siege didn't go that well, but once they find it, as long as they're away from WorstTurttle and they're not getting immediately krakened on that descent to the skies, they should be looking at a free attempt at a Phoenix.
Well, the Niflheim Wargs like their chances here in a 5-man dive. As up goes Predss, and down goes the entirety of the Niflheim Wargs onto the left-hand Phoenix. Immediate Kraken in response. Coming out from WorstTurttle, doesn't find any priority targets to the Niflheim Wargs. In goes Cxnnahh against the world WorstTurtle. Forced out of the fight there. Zyrhoes up in the air, looking for a kill onto Cxnnahh, but that is one tanky tier. Rapio finds one, Rapio finds a second in the meantime onto 2 damage dealers from the Solar Scarabs, and it is up to the tanks and Echrome on this order side to defend this middle lane. Phoenix, the left-hand bird, fell quickly to the Niflheim Wargs, who are charging forward. Panvich is going to be the next target. Damage dishing into Dazer now. Falls, same thing goes for Panvich. Echrome left to defend the Titan, the Niflheim Wargs. 5 Wargs stepping in to the Titan pit here. Echrome finds one onto Predss. Rapio finding low. The Titan is falling. The Titan is not dropping as quickly as I thought it was going to.
Got damage
with
He's
the
got a heal.
cooldowns low. The Niflheim Wargs are all falling low. Cxnnah's back in. GunTTeRR takes out Echrome, and the Solar Scarabs are going to be taken out by the Niflheim Wargs.
That was a lot scarier than it looked times. I mean, Echrome still had DPS. The Odibo was flowing. He's like, can I go back to Titan? Can I heal up just a little bit of HP before I can try and dish out more DPS? Unfortunately, could not. He gets his Aegis pulled and then finally goes down. But Rapio, he was watching that siege from the sky, and he said, man, this is going kind of sketchy. I'll do it myself. Just goes down, Anvil of Dawn, picks up 2, picks up 3rd a little bit later. That Thor said, I'm tired of trying to go for Phoenixes. Let's just end this thing. Let's just go for kills.
Man, it seems like the Solar Scarabs' kryptonite is the Niflheim Wargs. I mean, the single loss that the Scarabs took in the SCC phase was from the Niflheim Wargs.
Yep.
And the Wargs continuing their reign of terror on the Scarabs here at SMITE Summer Masters.
And because of that, put some fear in them. Not going to be the end of the world just yet, just game 1. But you got to be thinking about things to take away. That Thor might be at the top of my list.
Game 1 was a heavyweight punching match between these 2 European squads. Game 2 coming your way in just a second. You're going to want to stick around.
the Niflheim Wargs that are able to continue their onslaught from earlier on today. This one takes a little bit longer. It's not quite the 25-minute game. We're going a few minutes longer than that. The outcome's the same, though, and it's the Wargs on top. And if you want to be on top of things in SMITE, the new event that's going on right now, the Color Forge Prism of Souls event is going on right now. And as we've done with other events, 10.6 is the time to buy it. 33% off, 1,500 gems for the bundles. That's all the way through. Or you can buy all of them right now for 3,000 gems. As the updates roll out, the price for this event will go up. So now is the time to get into game and get your hands on not only the Tier 5 Fenrir skin, but the recolors of all the other skins that are in this event as well. And so the Color Forge Prism of Souls event, now's the time to get in. Some really awesome options there in-game. And stay on top of things in SMITE, just as the Wargs have stayed on top of the world of SMITE here on their first day of their event. I mean, things going incredibly well for this Wargs team. And Frog, someone who's a fan of that Tier 5 Fenrir skin.
Absolutely.
Can you vouch for it?
Oh, no question. You get to ride a dog, and you're like another person, and you can make the dog pink too with
Gotcha.
the
With the
different
recolor?
dyes. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
You've sold me
Just with
more
those
than-
couple of words.
Yeah.
Like just with that one sentence, you're totally sold.
That's all I've needed. Look, anything in the world of dogs is always a winner in my mind.
Easy sell.
Right now, the Wargs, I guess they're a wolf of some sort, technically in the dog family tree somewhere, and they're on top of things in game number 1. Look, Frog, it was a lot of what we were talking about earlier with this team, and in the post-game interview, this team talked a lot about how their mindset was just going to be run things down,
Yep.
if you can, and knock the opposing squad off kilter. And it seemed like they were able to do so, and a lot of those individual pick-type picks that we were worried about ended up coming to fruition here in game 1.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have a lot to say about the carries and how they work together. I was a little bit skeptical of this Olorun, but going deathless here in the game, and then we were looking at the questionable engages, perhaps, but with how effective this tier was as well. I mean, I still remember on that Tier 2 siege, you just have these constant flanks coming through, multiple man fearlesses, and then what do we say at the start of the desk? Rapio running this game, double kill at this final Phoenix siege, ends up giving them the space that they need. And the global pressure, you give an impact player like this, that sort of global pressure, the ability to run the map, getting in there, the team synergy, I think really speaks for itself.
I think it does as well. Look, the Wargs, remember, the only team that beat the Solar Scarabs during the regular phase of the EU SEC, able to do so again here in game number 1. Undying on GunTTeRR. GunTTeRR has been a very difficult mid laner to kill here today. In game 1 against the Scarabs here, no different. And Rapio there, and the Thor. And so much of what we talk about with Thor is how hit or miss of a god that is. If you're picking Thor, and early in the game, the Anvil of Dawns aren't quite hitting, the walls aren't quite hitting, the double tap of the hammers just aren't there. Sometimes you just drop a stinker of a game, and it was the opposite for Rapio here. Felt like from the get-go, things were really connecting. And you're right, the carries, both magical damage didn't matter. Simply just had too much for the Solar Scarabs. Now, some of what we talked about with the Scarabs was substitutions for this team, Dazer, Zyrhoes stepping in for the squad for this event. I think some of game 1, we can have that conversation. Maybe some synergy issues early on for the Solar Scarabs. Because their composition was fine. I think what we drafted, we agreed that it was a decent look for the Solar Scarabs. I think maybe the pacing of this game caught them a bit off guard.
Yeah, I mean, I think Dazer definitely didn't look the most comfortable stepping into this role. 0-7 on the Sobek, and the first time that we've seen Sobek all day, all event.
Yeah.
Not the best showing off the bat from him, but there were moments of positive things. Like you said, we moved past the 25-minute mark, right? So we're definitely playing the EU style of play.
Titan clash.
We saw the Titan clash. But no, I think it'll be interesting to see how they adapt here for game number 2. Knowing that those picks, I'm not sure it was a pick thing. I think maybe you spend a little bit more time on the team. You get the kinks worked out with that first game, potentially. You identify what you were doing wrong. I will also say they had a really good Phoenix defense on that first Phoenix siege. So it's not like they went down without a fight. They certainly had their positives in that game. I think they just need to shore up that early game a little bit.
Yeah, agreed. This is not a team that you can completely gloss over on the Solar Scarab side of the map. And you shouldn't, not only in this matchup, but throughout the remainder of the weekend as well. We're going to stick with a lot of support bans for the Niflheim Wargs against the Solar Scarabs. Thor, immediately the answer. Rapio on a warpath so far today.
Yeah.
Continues on the Thor and the Hachiman as well. Hachiman has been rolling here in the few games that we've seen him this weekend, and that tells us, obviously, the Solar Scarabs not intent on first picking the Hachiman. So they'll go ahead and sweep things away. Yemoja still open. That's been a popular ban throughout a few of the games that we've seen. Erlang Shen also has been banned pretty heavily, but still leaves some power for the Scarabs.
Yeah, I mean, I know you were talking about how much you wanted to see that Erlang
God,
Shen
I am begging for an Erlang Shen jungle meta. Is my tone clear enough there? I want to make it. I am so desperate for an Erlang Shen jungle meta that I'm so excited.
No, I'm on the same page.
That he's just getting banned out. You know what I mean?
I
just
think,
so close to being in meta.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page.
God, please, God, no. I'll pass. He's getting banned though, which means he's one missed ban away from being in the jungle. At any rate, though, Baba Yaga, one of the picks that was left open here, Frog. This is a zero style of pick.
Yeah.
And provides some defense. If dying a lot is your concern, Baba Yaga should help you out a bit.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, Baba Yaga, sort of a staple, I think, for a reason. Paul was playing this pick early on in the SPL phase, started building the Prophetic Cloak. Now I think tankier mid laners, you get even more value with the little bit of tank meta we've been talking about. But these other tanks that are left on the table, both Terra and Yemoja, unbanned in this game. And those are the two most popular supports I think we've seen all day today. And no surprise, we get both those supports picked up. And the front line rounded out for the Scarabs, I think, also would not be a surprise. The tier was a huge starter for the Wargs and what they were intending to do, right? That Lawbringer having a stun, we talked about it in game one. That is a huge part of their ability to find those initial engages. And Souliner was doing a ton of work. Panvich did fantastic, or rather Kana, excuse me, getting the teams mixed up, did fantastic getting in the back line and finding those flanks. This time, Panvich, first time on land for him, looking to make a show, taking the tier away, going to be hopping on that top 3.
Worth mentioning, Davey in the interview also said this is GunTTeRR's first time on land, and GunTTeRR's killing it so far. So a couple land newcomers with us here on the first day of SMITE Masters, and some of them have been having some pretty good showings. The Wargs have their dual lane rounded out, their carries also figured out, Discordia, Rom. Frog, Disco has always been a great catch-all pick in my mind. You know what you're getting big damage. The passive is of course wonderful for the team fight. Some good utility, CC, lockdown. Feels like the type of pick that is never fully out of the meta.
Yeah.
In the right moment, Discordia can always be the option.
Yeah, she's like always almost there. Like always almost at the top of the tier list. But I think with this meta sort of giving a lot of chaos, if you will, to the to the meta coming in, I think Discordia brings a lot to the table in terms of you don't necessarily have to decide, hey, we're going to run it through dual lane, hey, we're going to run it through soul lane. Whichever lane ends up winning more, getting top damage, you get that little bit of a buff, and then you start to get those rotations over early on the Discordia. I think it's a lot of control while still maintaining that damage that you're looking for out of the traditional mid laner. So I like it coming back to the forefront here. I'm
a big fan. And this is non-sarcasm. I'm an actual fan.
Oh, totally.
No, this is real though. Dude, now I've gaslit myself, and I'm not sure what I believe anymore.
You've ruined your credibility. Yeah.
I truly believe this.
Okay.
Oh man, I'm nervous that my default tone of voice leans towards sarcasm.
Yeah.
And I hate that. Because I mean this, that I love a King Arthur and tier solo lane meta because they're disruptors and they're aggressive, and that style of pick in my mind.
It sounds like somebody put a gun to your head and forced you to say that.
No.
That's a crazy statement.
No. I actually enjoy that. I promise. I really like it. But King Arthur tier, it's always a fun battle to watch those two out of the solo lane. Robin, we saw it earlier on today, Frog. You might have forgotten because it wasn't the best Robin game, but maybe some value here. We always refer to as a bit of a bridge pick in Jabalanke out of ADC for the Solar Scarabs. Do you think Ravana an obvious pick here for the Solar Scarabs? Does it fill a need that you feel like this draft had?
I like Ravana a lot in general. I think bridge pick, you sort of describe it pretty well there. It can bring a lot of different things to the table. You can go a little bit hybrid, you can go full damage, and you still have that CC. Whenever you get CC immunity baked into a non-ultimate ability, it's strong. And then you add damage immunity to that, and it gets stronger. Now, I mean, that seems like sort of Smite 101, but there's a reason Ravana's come back to the forefront. He's been picked and banned a couple of different times today. And I think the Solar Scarabs, they're looking to make space. You've got a great space creation tool in the form of that River's Rebuke. You've got that tier who's going to be consistently in the front line. I think if you're looking for a jungler that can get in there, this is maybe what they were missing in game number 1. They had that Poseidon. Poseidon is a squishy mage. It is hard to get to the back line and inherently find yourself alone flanking as a mage, right? You have to have space created for you. Ravana, not the same way. You get to flank around. You have that inherent safety in your ultimate, in that overhead kick. So you get a little bit more space creation. There's going to be more room, I think, for WorstTurttle to sort of roam around the map and run things as long as he can, stay active on this pick.
Yep. I believe it was Ravana v Camazotz jungle in our first set of the day, where Camazotz, Rapio specifically, absolutely dominated, took over the matchup. So Camazotz versus Ravana is already a game that Rapio has played earlier on today. We talked a bit about this going into game 1. I would argue maybe another example of a game where the Scarabs have not been just completely outdrafted, right? It seems like they've got a competitive composition here, and so it's going to largely come down to play on field.
Agreed.
Okay, you do agree. I want to make sure, because look, I only know so much here, Frog. I don't want to go too far.
I don't know
out
if you're relying on me.
Oh, I am.
It's the best strategy.
If we've learned anything in my 4.5 years of commentary here, 3.5 of Smite specifically, it's that I'm leaning on the guy next to me on the desk more often than not. Do you think that the Scarabs in their composition, they hold a candle to what the Wargs have drafted?
I feel confident. I'm going to make a bold statement. You're relying on me so heavily. This is the first game 3. The Scarabs going to push it the game 2. These subs, I think, they got the kinks out of their system. A little bit of a new thing that they tried to bring the Sobek in, tried to bring this Martichoras in. They go back to parity here. You give a strong pick like Yemoja. You get to be ranged, a little bit safer for Dazer. You give a lot of safety over towards Zyrhoes on this Baba Yaga. You top 2 your subs. That's important. You top 2 your subs.
Good point.
And you give them the flexibility that they want. I feel confident in the Scarabs. I love how they round out their draft. I'm giving them on the favor for game number 2.
The question is, are we going to a game 3, or am I rethinking who I'm putting my confidence in here on the desk? Dimes, Trelly, tell me how you feel.
The Niflheim Wargs looking to go unscathed here in game number 1. The Solar Scarabs looking to claw to a game number 3. Dimes, Trelly, Doug. I'm feeling good in answer to Doug's question on the desk there. Trelly, how you feeling about the, you know what, we'll save drafts for the game. How you feeling in general? How are you today? We haven't really talked outside of this.
Well, I do appreciate you asking first and foremost, and
Sure.
I'm feeling great, especially because we got a great matchup right here in front of us, and that always helps. And it does seem like the Twitch audience feels like it's not a great matchup. It feels like it's very one-sided over towards the Wargs. That's a bit of recency bias, though. They did just have a fantastic performance in game number 1. And I tend to agree with Frog. I'm not going to say that I agree that the Solar Scarabs are going to win out, but I do agree that probably some nervous kinks. Get them out of your system and get locked in here for game number 2. We're not going to call game 1 a fluke, but you take what you did, you learn from it, and you always play better game 2.
The first thing that jumps out to me is Zyrhoes on Baba Yaga.
Oh, yeah.
I love this way more than the Marty. I know Marty, Burst ADC, plays like a mage, but Zyrhoes is the John Wick of the Smite universe.
Oh, wow,
And
really?
Have you seen that mustache he's rocking? Actually, closer to probably like a Bond villain.
Okay, whatever works.
Nerves of steel in this
Okay,
dude.
I like the comparison.
And Baba Yaga, John Wick, get it? That's what I was kind of going for.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
The boogeyman.
Yeah,
I got you
anyways,
now. Sorry.
point being, love to see him on a mage.
I wish that
Can't
I
believe I
caught
had
it
to
earlier.
point that out for you.
I'm really.
I was gesturing Baba Yaga.
Didn't see the gestures. I watched Smite. But in this case, I do think that the Baba Yaga is a great look. We saw it in game number 1 just pop off in the hands of GunTTeRR, of course, and switching the hands over to Zyrhoes. I assume it's going to be pretty similar. Just a very safe pick, plenty of burst damage, and overall, Baba is just so safe. She clears relatively fast once you get that potion online and just start, popping 2 of them at a time. And the quintessential just solid mage pick right now. So getting Zyrhoes his hands on it, I think he's only going to be a plus.
And meanwhile, Echrome picking up the Xbalanque. Xbalanque, we haven't seen this pick for, I mean, in and out of the meta for like the last 10 years, essentially, right? Kind of moves away. Clear's not the absolute greatest. What's bringing X-Baller back into things?
I imagine just the ultimate, right? You muffle up the comm, say, hey, I can't see. That's usually the all you get. And then at the end of the fight, hopefully you've won, right? You open your eyes, hopefully you guys win or lose. But a rotation from WorstTurttle looks like this was called out. The Wargs are going to retreat and not try and fight for that shield buff, knowing there's a Blink Robin close by.
I like that move. You know, in game number 1, we saw Rapio be very proactive on the map and kind of force the issue here. WorstTurttle was following up a lot of the time. So to see WorstTurttle kind of kick things off here on this Raven, pretty good look here for the jungler of the Scarabs.
Certainly is. I think that you just have the ability to get active. You're not as immobile. He had no form of CC immunity last game. This game he should have 3, or at the very least 2 now until he gets a beat to level 12 if he wants so. And that means that the lockdown on the side of the Niflheim Wargs, the King Arthur ults, the Discordia CC, and of course everything that Predss has to offer, is not going to be as impactful, and WorstTurttle can play a bit more aggro in his role as the jungle. And it's just like pretty much out the gate, level 3, Robin's ready to go, right? He's got the blink, he's got so much CC, the root is going to be able to pull relics, and that's something that I think they were having a problem with, the Scarabs that is, in game number 1, who was going to be initiating. There was a lot of Dazer attempting to and then just getting turned on. Now you've got 3 people that might want to blink in, or in this case 2, and of course Dazer he could Riptide himself in or out, and I think that helps out your ease of engage.
You know, Trelly, I'm getting kind of shades of deja vu here in this game number 2 because, you know, we hung out last Summer Masters last year, right?
We did. I was there.
Right. And Discordia and King Arthur were like top pick, top ban because that combination was so lethal. And here we see it picked up again for Cxnnahh and GunTTeRR, this Disco King Arthur combination. Kind of walk me through how those two interact.
Well, in my mind, Discordia passive goes over to who has top damage. King Arthur just has just about more abilities than anyone else on the map, and he's going to use them to not only clear the way, but just be as annoying as possible. He's got top damage right now, and I'm assuming Cxnnah's going to want to hold on to that, rotate through, not really use his damage on Panvich, of course. He's just trying to, you know, keep that passive and hold it on to himself. But once you see him rotate in and hit these carries, that's really what you're looking for. The bluestone procs, that sort of thing on these immobile mages, and of course the Hunter's Dazer is getting horrific emblem here. Doesn't have enough Omi, but looks like the follow-up damage is not there. So we're not going to see a first blood just yet.
Good signal to the junglers to head over to the duo lane, though. A couple of beads online here for both Davy and Echrome, so it's not going to be a free CC lockdown for either junglers. But with those support relics being down, could be an opportunity. And WorstTurttle, knowing that it's called out, making their way over to this left-hand side. Predss falling pretty low here. WorstTurttle blinking in. Easy lockdown onto Predss. Terra goes down for the first kill of game number 2 here. Up into the air. 1 shot, 2 shot. iDavy just off the mark there with that third Rom snipe for a second kill of the game.
Yeah, it did seem like it was a little bit out of range as is. I don't think the damage would have been there. It would have been close, but you don't get anything for almost, and that means that just the over-aggression from Predss is going to come back to bite him. Remember, the first gank was called out. WorstTurttle stepped over to shield buff. They said, hey, Robin's over there, back up. This time around, Predss double dashes just right as the aggression begins, or I guess didn't even hit the monolith. So single dashes, uses everything, doesn't have level 5. And Davey says, I'm going to have to leave you out to dry. No way I'm going to stick around and fight. And that means first blood goes the way of WorstTurttle on this Robin. And that's a great look. Rapio goes for Transcendent start. Means he's probably not looking to fight anytime soon, but it's actually Dazer trying to get aggressive onto Davy. Doesn't find anything, but hey, both dual lane ults.
And meanwhile, Rapio and WorstTurttle going at it in the jungle here. GunTTeRR moving in, but so is Zyrhoes on that Baba Yaga. A little bit of damage. Damage is the best form of peel. You know, offense is the best defense and all that. But if you're WorstTurttle, you're loving the fact that you're able to keep your ultimate on that left-hand side. Is blown there in that little engagement on the right with Rapio. But Rapio still having that bat out of hell online means that potential to take out maybe Zyrhoes, looking for catching out a dash, something like that. I mean, Xbalanque is so safe, right, with that long-range ability to get out of there. Same thing goes for Panvich, and you know, if it's kind of tough scenes if you're Rapio trying to target down one of the Solar Scarabs.
Yeah, in this case, like I said, Transcendent start means that Rapio doesn't want to fight anyways.
Right.
You saw he was kind of tickling WorstTurtle there. It's just not a lot of DPS until you actually get that Transcendent stacked up. WorstTurtle said, hey, I'm out the gate with Jotuns. I want to use this cooldown reduction. I want to spam my abilities.
Sure.
Mystic Rush in, Mystic Rush out. I just want to get it on cooldown so I can use it again. Whereas Rapio is like, hey, I need can you spare some stacks? Like, I need to get this item online. Which is why he's probably waiting to fight unless someone's in his territory. WorstTurttle was on his side of the map, says, all right, I'll throw some abilities your way, but I'm not trying to fight. My early game is not really what Camazotz is known for. But as you said, the targets aren't great at the moment. I think the matchup into Zyrhoes is quite good later on when you have the DPS to say, hey, even if you go into the house, I can just kill you with Bat Out of Hell while you're in the house. At the moment, you don't really have that option, and Zyrhoes can just, jump away, blast off, and not care about the DPS from Rapio.
Well, both these squads in the SEC actually going 4-1. The Solar Scarabs just scraped out a #1 seed because of some head-to-head points, plus and minuses. It was basically math that got them to that #1 seed position coming into SMITE Masters here. The Niflheim Wargs, same record. I mean, 4-1, looking just as clean in the SEC. So no surprise that this game #2 here is looking a little bit tighter than game #1, and no shock to anyone, I think, that the Scarabs and the Wargs have slowed it down a little bit.
They have slowed it down, but farm-wise, the Wargs have just been getting the better end of this trade. And look at this, Rapio never left. He was hiding. Blinks off the Rising Jaguar, but misses the slow. How the hell should be able to finish this, though? But he's so fast, he misses one tick. He's got to go.
Ooh, Davey missing that third snipe. And Rapio not able to find the first shot of Bat Out of Hell there. Means Echrome escapes with that Rising Jaguar, which, again, goes like a mile. I mean, it's like Hachiman on the horse, right? Echrome was able to just hop on the horse and run away. That Rising Jaguar goes half the distance of the lane. You're CC immune. Everything's fine. And Davey and Rapio not able to combine for a kill there. WorstTurttle and Zyrhoes in the middle lane against GunTTeRR and Predss, who have teamed up to take down some neutral farm in the middle lane.
I'm going to give you some insider info.
This should be fascinating.
Maybe I'm not, because Dazer might have a beautiful ultimate here, and he does. GunTTRR's in trouble.
What a great one, locking down the mid laner. Can only throw that apple out to try to put some damage on the map. And WorstTurttle finds the final tick of damage to put down GunTTeRR. And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, Charlie. I know you will, if I am wrong. I know you'll do it publicly and loudly.
I would.
I mean, that's WorstTurttle is probably the best person you put that kill on.
Absolutely. I mean, Zyrhoes gets the assist. Of course, Dazer is able to set up that kill, and the aggression has not stopped. It looks like the Wargs are trying to step up for this blue buff invade. They are just going to be able to retreat after, though. And like I said, WorstTurttle has been driving the force of this game, but that gold still in favor of the Wargs because of their farm, because of just how this solo lane has been playing out. Now I want to give you that insider information we've been talking about.
Yes.
It's about Rapio, it's about this Camazotz pick. We've had the SPL junglers in for content days, they make tier lists with me, that sort of thing. And Camazotz has been known to be one of the more difficult jungles to make worse because you have to land your 2. Like, bar none. If your 2 is not landing, your engage just gets so much worse. And that's what we saw over to Echrome. He blinks in, Vampire bats off the mark, you don't get that slow, you don't get that extra heal coming your way, the gank dies. Rapio needs to be hitting that crucial ability as this game continues. If he's going to be blinking in, just throwing your 1 out and just hoping that hi-rez procs and tick damage carries you through the fight is just not going to work. That's why he's not really picked that often. You have to make use. It's like a Thanatos Death Scythe. If you're not landing that ability, your engage just gets so much worse. I'm going to keep my eye on Rapio. It's a tough skill shot to hit consistently, but he's the one who locked in the Camazotz. Has to make sure he's making them work.
And you talked about this Transcendence pickup in the first item. I mean, only 20 stacks so far, so it's not like this Camazotz is looking to get active at 9 minutes with only 20 stacks. Grab a couple more stacks, maybe finish off, what are we thinking, a Jotuns, a Brawlers, some sort of penetration item, and then really start looking to make an impact in these engagements.
Yeah, if it were me, I would simply stack with kills, but, you know, I'm built different. Yeah, I'm built a little different. Rapio should stack up with some farm in this case, but anti-heal is still important. I mean, you're up against the Yemoja, the Baba Yaga is going to have some passive healing tier, just going to constantly be spamming it, so I wouldn't hate a Brawler's Rush, but sometimes these junglers do like to play a little bit more for their own sake, a little bit more, hey, crush your Jotuns, I want more cooldown, I want more damage, I don't care about anti-heal. Not necessarily wrong, just makes your team fight a little bit harder and your 1v1 a little bit better.
Looking at Echrome here, finishing up those dev gloves, got a little charge Morningstar. What's that silly little guy building into?
I'm assuming a dominance. It is something that's been rushed relatively early on if you think you don't need Executioner, if you're just like, hey, I'm going to get this as quickly as possible. The MP5 suits Shivalong cakes as long as you're popping your 1. If you have the bolas online, your mana is just going to get slowly drained, especially if you're putting more points into that ability. Possible gank onto Panvich, but once again, Vampire bats off the mark. No slow. He gets a zoom away.
You called it, man. You're killing this.
I'm trying.
You don't land the tier, or the not the tier 2, the second ability rather, and the gank dies. I mean, you literally just prophesized that.
Well, I don't want to prophesize it. I would like the Vampire bats to be hitting because then we see more blood and more action, and that makes our job easier. But
a little dark there, man.
I mean, have you been up? You've casted 2 kills already. Were you not hyped about that?
No, that was fantastic.
That's
I
what
loved
I'm
it.
saying. So you don't like that I brought up blood?
Yeah, man.
Okay, my bad about that. It's just little fun time graphics.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Pixels. It's
Yeah,
just
exactly.
pixels.
Exactly.
Left-hand side, it's been pretty slow. I mean, across the map, we're only 2 kills. The Niflheim Wargs haven't sniffed one yet. Echrome and Davy just farming up as Davy dives in aggressively here. And at what point, I mean, is it going to be this 12-minute beacon spawn that we're going to see a big teamfight break out? Is it going to be a Pyromancer start? Where do you think this game really splits open?
Probably on Predss at a purple buff. That's my guess.
Locked down in those waves. Predss falling to half HP. Dazer and WorstTurttle. Now comes Echrome, slamming shots into Predss, who can escape with just a sliver of HP. But Echrome puts the finishing touches onto Predss with that rising Jaguar. And the Solar Scarabs add a 3rd kill to their tally mark.
I'm not going to say the script has been entirely flipped, but Dazer has been on point and Predss has been the target, and this is exactly the opposite of game number 1. I mean, remember, Dazer was constantly getting caught out on this. Sobek could not initiate for his team. This Yemoja, 0-0-3, part of all 3 of these kills. The River's Rebuke has been there. Got to give Dazer the credit for stepping up. But every time a kill happens, I have to bring it up. The Wargs are still ahead. They are still out farming. Cxnnahh has been on point, and Davy has been on point. Those side lanes have been W keying, just making sure that blue buff has been constantly invaded. Purple buff was invaded there. That's the reason Predss died. But the beacon, unfortunately, no fight there. KS team's going to capture it uncontested. So no big scrap for you. Looks like the Scarabs are fine with their gank, and they're going to get on out of there.
You know, I'm kind of surprised by that, honestly, Trelly, because a couple times today, we've seen a jungler set up that 12-minute spawn with like an 11:30 gank on a duo lane, right? You try to open up the map, create a 4v5, pressure, power play your way. We saw that, right? WorstTurttle rotates over to the left-hand side. You get the kill, you get the power play, but then the Scarabs just let the beacon go, and the Niflheim Wargs picked that one up.
I think it's because it's hard to see the value of the beacon because it's invisible numbers, right? It's just a buff. You don't get to see the gold come through. You don't get to see that lead. But you're going to feel it, right? You're going to say, oh, they're doing a little bit more damage, a little bit more movement speed, that sort of thing. You know, it does start to add up to your stats. And Zyrhoes says, hey, wait a second. You know, GunTTeRR wasn't swinging like that a second ago. Maybe I should stay back. The first one's not a big deal. You know, it does start to add up, though, I would assume. I want to see the Scarabs fighting for those beacons more consistently. And unfortunately, it looks like the invade for the Wargs, that is, goes sour. And Panvich finally gets his hands on a blue buff that has been heavily contested so far this game.
iDavy forced out there. Shibalanki ultimate is popped just to create some space on the shield buff. Predss has made the rotation in as well on Terra. Shield buff still online. Dazer's followed the enemy support, so now it's a 2v2 on this left-hand side, but just a little scrap over this shield buff. Tough to see any more aggression breaking out with Dazer able to separate the team fight easily with those waves online. WorstTurttle hanging around this left-hand side too, but I mean, Relics online for both of the ADCs, Relics online for both of the mid laners. The junglers are just getting, I mean, 2-0-1 for WorstTurttle, sure, but Rapio's not having quite as much luck on the other side.
I'm amazed that we see exactly what WorstTurtle decides to itemize into. I told you 3 sets of CC immunity. I lied to you. He got Sunder and Blink. He's worried about the shielding that might come through, possibly because, hey, you know Dazer is going to be having this River's Rebuke. A Phantom Shell would be a nice answer. So far, a Phantom Shell has not been picked up, but I like to think that Predss might pick it up at level 12. You can blow up those shields. You can blow up these key targets.
Sure.
It seems like WorstTurtle's worried about these tankier, you know, of course, Predss and Cxnnahh at the forefront of the fight. Hit him with a good Sunder and just put some DPS into him. That's a good way to deal with those tanks.
Certainly, and it's been Dazer with the River's Rebuke 3 out of 3 times to find all the kills. Phantom Shell would come in very handy for the Niflheim Wargs. As the Scarabs and the Wargs, bit of a gentleman's agreement here, splitting these objectives. Davy going down to Panvich. Davy's up in the air in a bad spot here for just a little bit longer. Gonna drop down into the clutches of 3 members of the Solar Scarabs. And Echrome is gonna pick up 2nd kill onto Davy.
Yeah, you said a gentleman's agreement, and I tend to agree, but did Davy not get the memo? Hey, we're going for Pyro, we're giving them gold. Okay,
right.
Cool. I'm gonna be right next to gold while it happens, though. Didn't seem like the best idea, and Predss is nearby attempting to go for a steal. The Terra walls can be lethal. We'll see if he's got the damage to do so, but the lights are off, and the Scarabs grab it for free. I would say free, but they did lose the Pyromancer in tow for that engagement, but it seemed like something they were fine with. And now WorstTurttle stuck between a rock and a hard place, but tower's close by. He'll be all right. Can't step up for the blue buff just yet, but he's not going to try and scrap 1v2.
I know we've touched on it a few times now already, but just impressive farming from the Wargs. I mean, 4 kills to none for the Scarabs. Gold Fury goes the way of the Scarabs as well, and the Niflheim Wargs are still up like 1.5k.
Yep.
Experience, sure, I mean, a little bit of a lead in the solo lane, a little bit of a lead in the jungle, about even in mid, about even in ADC.
You want to see the net worth and see where that 1.5k is? It's on Cxnnahh in comparison to Panvich. Just 8.4 to 9.8. That's it. It's King Arthur. Once the King Arthur shows up, he says, hey, I'm level 17 at 16 minutes. Do you mind if I just run at these carries? And I'm sure the Solar Scarabs would say, we would rather you didn't do that. But everyone else is sitting just fine. It really is just the Cxnnahh show. 0-0-0 means he hasn't done anything with it yet, but this King Arthur could make waves once he decides to rotate into these fights. So far, it's just been Panvich who's just getting the mean end of the stick.
And it's just a matter of time before the next beacon spawns, and that second beacon spawn is where you see a lot of solo laners make their presence known over that objective.
Yeah, I would like to see Cxnnahh get active over towards that beacon. Yeah, I mean, the Wargs got the first one for free, so I guess they don't need to, but you're giving your Discordia passive over to this King Arthur who's living alone on an island. He's getting so far ahead. He's got so much gold in tow. His itemization is looking so much better than Panvich. Only way you can actually use that is in these fights on these squishier targets. Zyrhoes wouldn't like the mean end of some King Arthur abilities, and of course, Echrome 2 levels down towards him. And it actually looks like Rapio blinks in.
Aggressively up into the bat out of hell, looking for Zyrhoes, who's got some extra prots in that home sweet home. Now, Rapio's in a bad place here, as Zyrhoes and Dazer are forced out. Panvich has made the rotation as well. It's a 5v4 for the moment, as Echrome is still hanging around that left-hand side.
Get ready. I
Cxnnahh
can't see.
making sure that the Solar Scarabs can't follow up. A 2-man Lawbringer over the top, and a 2-man Fearless back into the grasp of the Solar Scarabs. Lights out for the Niflheim Wargs. Echrome picks up the first kill of the fight. Cxnnahh, Rapio, and GunTTeRR all forced out of this engagement. WorstTurttle still charging forward, but out of mana, and the Wargs are dangerously low.
They are low, but it looks like the Scarabs were also looking pretty weak, and they didn't want to stick around for the fight. Dazer's going to be able to heal just a bit. Davey, once again, I mean, he wasn't in a bad spot because they backed, but it seems like he's always very aggressive positioning on this ROM on a pick. Probably because Cxnnahh was teleporting in and said, hey, do you mind if we go in, try and find Zyrhoes? The cripple was already used. They don't have the damage, and the snipes are not available. Zyrhoes, clutch rocks, is able to get out there.
What an Aegis. I mean, what a valuable Aegis. Immuning almost everything as Panvich has made the rotation back in, and the fight keeps on rolling as Panvich knocks up a couple members of the Wargs, but is caught between the walls and death. Gonna be in the ground for the next 35 seconds.
It is
enough. GunTTeRR takes out Dazer from downtown, and Disco picks up a first kill for themselves.
Wow, I was amazed. I barely saw the apple, and I saw it connect. I was like, that's got to be close. But then you look, that's a level 11 Yemoja up into a level 17 Discordia. Look at this aggressive positioning. There's no Pyromancer up just yet. They could wait for the spawn, but I think they're in for something a little bit bigger.
Oh, the Niflheim Wargs have forced out the Solar Scarabs. Fire Giant is the target.
No relics.
Zyrhoes moving in here. Home Sweet Home is online. Cxnnahh with the lockdown. No Home Sweet Home kite yet. No relics. Home Sweet Home comes out, but absolutely wrecked. Zyrhoes goes down to the ground. Darkness for the moment. Cxnnahh forced out of the fight. Rapio taken down as well, but the Fire Giant has not been leashed by the Niflheim Wargs, who's going to take down the neutral objective, and I think the jungler's more than happy to pay for his life.
Yep. Unfortunately for Zyrhoes, no relics. He was the sacrificial lamb. Someone's got to face check FG. We know they're over there. Good luck, buddy. He ends up going down. Cxnnahh, I was like, hey, you're sponging off all this farm. What are you going to do with it? He shows me. He says, hey, this King Arthur is going to be a menace. I'm going to cripple out the blast off, make sure Zyrhoes can't jump away, spin away the knockup. And unfortunately for Dazer, not able to steal away that pyro. This King Arthur's been a menace. I mean, gets very low a few times, but low health bars doesn't make him die. He can teleport back in and make some big waves. Cxnnahh, I mean, in game number 1 looked clean, but this is the King Arthur show so far. He's been destructive, doing double the damage of anyone on his team.
Fire Giant goes the way of the Wargs. Pyromancer goes the way of the Wargs, and now Prima Fury joins her brothers and sisters. Brothers, I guess they're both men. Brothers on the map going down to the Niflheim Wargs. A clean sweep across the map. And now a real gold lead has opened up here for the Chaos Squad to the tune of about 5K.
Yep, they have had that gold lead essentially in their favor this whole game, but wasn't this big, right? They were able to really string those together. 4-level differential. It's just, I'm not going to say when did it happen because we've seen it in those blue buff invades, but Panvich is ulting away. It's just Cxnnahh. There's no rotation coming. Panvich isn't like, oh no, I think Rapio's on the way. It's just the King Arthur that he's worried about, rightfully so. The Niflheim Wargs have been stepping forward. Those Manticore spike procs, you forgot about that item for a while, but these warriors that can proc CC consistently pick it up, that damage is going to be in their hand. And now, the Wargs are stepping forward. They've got a 2-2-1 split going. Cxnnahh can't get anything done over in solo, so I would like a rotation at least over towards mid lane to keep some members occupied of the Scarabs while the rest of the team starts pushing down the tier 1 over on left. But XP, gold, these things are still very valuable. I mean, both members of both teams at this point. The Wargs, they've got some power spikes they'd like to grab. Predss has 2 items to his name at this point. It's just a Thieves and a Manticore spikes. They still need to try and knock these towers down before they're really feeling confident. And again, in game number 1, there was a preemptive Phoenix attempt. Didn't end up going the way of the Wargs. I think they've learned their lesson. They're not diving in this time.
Tier 2 drops in the left-hand lane. The middle lane, Tier 2, is the new target. Panvich going in aggressively, but forced immediately out. Predss drop in very low to some of those bolas out of Shibalanke as well. Terra ultimate comes out. Dazer cutting that fight straight in half with a good River's Rebuke, allowing the rest of the Niflheim Wargs to get out there with a moment of hesitation. And the Solar Scarabs able to split that fight up, able to protect their Tier 2 tower and force out the Niflheim Wargs all in one fell swoop.
Yeah, that fight looked all Scarabs. I mean, it didn't seem like the Wargs really wanted to get aggressive. They were sort of just trying to survive. Rapio did his best to do some DPS, but for me, it was GunTTeRR that took so much. Cxnnahh, once again, though, teleports back in, full HP, tries to create some space, and a beautiful strife. That's going to be your Tier 2 tower gone.
Oh, Discordia ripped through 3 members of the Solar Scarabs. Couple of autos coming out from Davy as well just to push out the Scarabs. Tier 2 tower goes down. Only 1 tower remaining here for the Solar Scarabs on that right-hand side. Echrome taking some brunt of the damage there out of GunTTeRR. This Tier 2 tower looks to be the next target for the Niflheim Wargs. And once again, the Solar Scarabs on their back foot playing defense.
They certainly were. Now they're going to have to... They're trying to defend this Tier 2 over on right. I mean, the Scarabs had a great line of offense there. Echrome turned off the lights and just laser beam. That was what really lowered the health bars there. This X-Ball has been pretty much the bulk of the DPS here on the side of the Scarabs. Top of the charts for a reason. Sitting at 3-0. WorstTurttle went for a tankier build. I mean, that's why he needs the Sunder, because if he's going into Glad Shield, Pestilence, trying to just get as much tank stats as possible. Means he doesn't have that burst, doesn't have that one-shot, but has been able to do that consistent damage in the fights, which has been a bit of an issue for the carries of the Wargs. I have been hyping up Cxnnahh, and of course GunTTeRR makes a massive play there for his team, but has been a bit quiet from the carries of the Wargs so far. They've got 3 kills to their name. They're trying to force, but that's the end of this Fire Giant push, really. You're going to see the Pyro come back up, try and grab 1 more Runic Bomb, and I'm thinking we're going to group up for another FG fight.
And speaking of the FG fight here, Trelly, in Game 1, the Solar Scarabs were so far behind they were forced to let that one go more often than not.
Yep.
Is that the same case here where the Scarabs kind of have to watch from afar and hope for a steal, or can they really fight into the pit against the Wargs?
I would think they can step up if they so choose. They have the ability to. It's just Dazer could get caught out pretty easily. He's only sitting at level 13. WorstTurttle and Echrome are feeling good, right? Everyone else needs farm, and if you value that upgrade to your items more than the farm, you can probably just send them over to split push. But the Solar Scarabs have revealed their positioning. They're grouping up, and once again, what is Davy doing? Why is he here?
Oh, Davy up in the air, though, buying time for the rest of the Niflheim Wargs to make the rotation over. May pay for it with his life, and Aegis stalling that for just a moment. Echrome finishing off the enemy ADC there. Cxnnahh has made the rotation in as well. But against 4 members of the Scarabs, you just can't take that much damage. Rapio dropping low into Bat Out of Hell. Dazer falling low as well, only level 13. WorstTurttle boxing GunTTeRR in the backline, who has tons of damage in this Discordia. But WorstTurttle comes out on top. And Solar Scarabs with an easy, I'm not going to say easy, but a clean 3-0 with Davy getting caught out.
I'm baffled. That's the 3rd time I've seen Davy just nowhere near where he should be. I have no idea why he thought that was good positioning. The Solar Scarabs snuck up on him once again. And now it's time for the Wargs to just play split push. They've got no chance. I mean, Cxnnahh goes in to try and save his ADC and was not able to do so. And now the Solar Scarabs able to try and grab some farm. Rapio will be able to tick up that beacon in his team's favor. But yeah, just the first Fire Giant of the set going the way to the Solar Scarabs. Their first Fire Giant, I should say. And they've got to attempt to try and take down their first tower. Wow, all Tier 1 still available. All Tier 2 still available. That's a lot of real estate on the map for them to try to get their hands on, and that would help close up some of this gold that the Wargs have built up for themselves.
And not only that, the Titan's about to march down whichever lane the Titans spawn in. And that'll certainly be a boon for the Solar Scarabs, who have plenty of objectives in the way before they can look at the Titan of the Niflheim Wargs and take this to a game number 3 here. But the Niflheim Wargs still with a great gold lead. Level 20 is being hit across the board. Panvich has just a little bit ways to go. Level 15 only for Dazer. Really could use some experience in the pocket there. Get that Yemoja to 20.
Yep, would be busy getting the compassion. That helps out, trying to help, you know, not only be a little bit tankier for yourself, but for your team. Eat up some of that DPS. And the Titans have been unleashed. They're marching forward through solo lane, a lane that Cxnnahh has dominated throughout the entirety of this set. Panvich still not level 20 because of how much farm has been taking from this tier. But I like this call from the Wargs. They said, hey, we're ahead. You guys can have fun with your little Titan siege. We're just going to push down left lane, force someone back. So far, it's Panvich. But 1v4, how confident are you feeling? Not so. WorstTurttle starts to back, but ends up canceling it. And it is a siege farm. They have 2 rune buffs. This Phoenix is gone.
Oh, it's free Phoenix on the left-hand side for the Niflheim Wargs. The Solar Scarabs just a little bit too aggressive on this right-hand side. They think they're invincible with that Fire Giant and the Titan. Not backing, and it could be a middle lane Phoenix, only Panvich, who's certainly calling for the rest of the Solar Scarabs.
They just trust Cxnnahh. They're like,
go ahead,
way back.
Cxnnahh is attempting to play Space Maker here and create some distraction for the Solar Scarabs and keep them in the engagement here.
And now
the middle lane Phoenix just fell. I mean, for free, the Solar Scarabs
look at Dazer,
take tier 1, and the Wargs find 2, and they're going to find Dazer as well. I mean,
that's how much trust they had in Cxnnahh. They're like, hey, you go stop them 1v4. We'll get 2 Phoenixes. You keep them around, and we'll group up with you. And they end up getting the pick anyways. The Scarabs have not retreated. It's actually a Blink 4 from WorstTurttle who cut out GunTTeRR. Good damage, and here comes the dive.
Mystic Rush immune there, and here comes Panvich doing the damage as well. WorstTurttle takes out GunTTeRR. Echrome is now face-to-face with the Camazotz. iDavy taking out one. The Camazotz takes out another, and the Niflheim Wargs are surging forward. Zyrhoes going to fall faster than not, and it's going to be Davy with a double to take out the mid laner. That is a clean deicide, and with 2 Phoenixes down, Niflheim Wargs may have an opportunity here.
The Titan is still pushing in right lane, but the Wargs are going to run it down mid. All they have to do is contend with Dazer, who has no ultimate. He's going to have to try and keep this game alive. Predss is going back to bait. Are they all leaving?
What?
They're not going to go into the end. They're gonna,
shot.
The Titan split pushing is all that scared them. They have to go stop it or they lose the bird. They're not going to go for the end.
Trelly, I mean, with 20 seconds, 25 seconds at the time online before WorstTurttle even come back, I mean, that was an end. Right?
No,
like, the Niflheim Wargs had the opportunity there.
My guess is they said, hey, there's some low health bars. Maybe Rivers Rebuke messes up our end call. It wasn't available, but maybe they had lost count of the timer. Or maybe they just didn't know how much damage Titan did. They're like, does that Titan does it just end? Do we lose if we just keep pushing?
Wow.
Either way, the Wargs make the calculated but arguably, I mean, they're going for a safe win, right?
Sure.
They do have that buffer zone of 0-1. I feel like you go for that end call, but they said, hey, we're ahead by 10k gold. We're about to be in Enhanced Fire Giant territory, and there's 2 Phoenixes down. What's the harm in us going for one more push?
I think you're dead on. I think you chalk it up to just a little bit of inexperience with those Titans being unleashed, right? Like, how much damage is this thing really going to do? I mean, it took out half the Phoenix before they took it down, so we have no idea what would have happened if it took the Phoenix, pushed into base. Maybe it does just straight up box the Titan.
Okay, well, I know. They don't know. I can tell you it would not have killed the Titan.
All right.
But that might be some inexperience on their part, but I do think they're just like, hey, it's safer. We have 2 birds down. This is almost unthrowable if we just go in for an EFG, you know, split push together, make sure we group up. And they're confident they're 5v5. That's what it was, truthfully. They're like, we don't have to go for a possible toss-up. Let's just cross our T's, dot our I's, and get this dub, you know, the easiest way we know how.
WorstTurttle and Echrome may be in a weird spot here. Predss forced out, and now Echrome's going to be the target. Cxnnahh put him up in the air as the Rivers Rebuke has split things in half. Rapio in the air, back on Echrome. WorstTurttle takes out iDavy. That ROM damage is going to be sorely missed here for the Niflheim Wargs.
So I just got the update. The Titan was in right lane. They couldn't kill it because it was in right lane.
Dude, you're so right. Echrome takes out Cxnnahh, and the Solar Scarabs charging forward. GunTTeRR falling low. Panvich forced out as well. WorstTurttle, couple more shots, but Rapio in the meantime is soloing the Titan along with the fire minions. Is going to be forced out here by Zyrhoes and Dazer. Wow. Wow, what a cool interaction. I completely slipped my mind that when the Titan is out of base, you cannot end the game.
Yep, that is something that has not happened to me in any of my games. But yeah, if you just decide to push down while the enemy Titan's pushing, you gotta go get it. You gotta go get it to kill.
Come on back here, boy. Come here, boy.
Yep, and now it's up to Rapio to try and keep this enhanced Fire Giant from going down in favor of the Solar Scarabs. They were able to break the base, but the Phoenixes have spawned back in, and Predss is over here hiding. He decides to jump on Dazer.
Interesting. Ignoring the Fire Giant, taking out the support for the Solar Scarabs. WorstTurttle and Echrome pouring damage into the Fire Giant, but here comes the jungler as the Scarabs. Phoenix has respawned Echrome, put in the ground there as Rapio is taking on WorstTurttle, who's completely out of mana and successfully dissuades the Scarabs from taking down the Fire Giant.
He still has his leap. He's going to be able to get out of trouble, but the impossible was done. Those two Phoenixes in mid and left have respawned. One wave of fire minions, and now Panvich has to try and get out of trouble. The Riptide, it's just too far away. Rapio goes on a killing spree and is able to shut down that interaction. And now Enhanced Fire Giant is started up for the Wargs.
And the Solar Scarabs not in a fantastic position to defend this, especially with fire minions. A couple more waves, maybe one more, maybe they took them all, pouring down the way. Niflheim Wargs easily going to pick up this Fire Giant as the Solar Scarabs have let this one go. And it's once again a defense-type situation for the Solar Scarabs who, I mean, if this was 10.5, this game would be over, but the Titan mechanic saving the lives of the Solar Scarabs for just a couple more minutes here.
And they've got an attempt to try and defend one more time. Remember, the left and mid Phoenix dropped because of some split push shenanigans. It wasn't an all-out siege, but an EFG and you're a man down, you at least give up one. So mid Phoenix is going to drop, but the lights go out and they want to fight.
Niflheim Wargs with a power play for at least 10 more seconds. The Solar Scarabs just trying to buy that crucial amount of time here for their squad. And it looks like they're going to successfully do so as Cxnnahh and Predss forced out just a little bit here. Maybe he isn't super happy with the relic situation on iDavy either. And it's going to be a quick pause here from the side of Dazer.
And they need to group up their mental. They've got the Enhanced Fire Giant, like we've said. The end call is on their mind, but they got to break the base, right? These Phoenixes need to go down, and they're playing it as safely as possible. I've seen a lot of split push from Rapio, sort of trying to evade the team, saying, hey, in most 1v1s, I feel pretty confident Bat Out of Hell is going to get me out in trouble. I'm going to force some members of the Scarabs over, and I'm just going to 1v1 a Phoenix if they don't. I like that call. I think that just going in 5v5 with how much damage Xbalanque's been able to do in the lights turn out. We've seen that laser beam just delete targets. Trying to, take away that safety. Say, hey, if you have 3 tanks just grouped up, because, of course, Ravana has built full damage, or full tank, right? He is essentially a tank in this case. WorstTurttle has just been, such a threat to the backline. Trying to split him apart and say, hey, go follow Rapio. Go on a little wild goose chase. Maybe it's a 4v4. We feel a little bit more confident. Now that mid Phoenix is down, someone's going to have to clear those fire minions as well. This is going to be a chess match, probably a slow push, but I imagine the Wargs just take this, one step at a time and try and pick apart the base.
I mean, obviously, Echrome throwing out those bolas doing tons of damage, but for my money, my eyes are on Zyrhoes. To hit like a major home sweet home, grouping up the players and chunking them as the Oni Fury is going to fall here to the Niflheim Wargs. We're backing off. Middle lane Phoenix has fallen, so the Solar Scarabs base once again has been cracked open by the Wargs. That left-hand Phoenix, of course, already been taken down once, so reduced health. Able to be taken a little bit faster this next time that the Wargs aim to do so. But the Solar Scarabs, I mean, down 13K, 32 minutes, certainly the longest games we've seen today and the most clashes we've seen today. The Niflheim Wargs all day long have been on top.
They certainly have. 3K pot purchase for Rapio. Does not care about upgrading those relics. He wants as much damage as physically possible. Those Oni minions are also sieging forward. We talked about someone's going to have to deal with the mid wave. Those are Oni fire minions in mid. That's going to essentially kill the Titan if that goes unchecked. So definitely going to have to be dealt with. But like I said, playing the siege, calculated but smart. They're saying, hey, all right, let's split up as much as possible. Their group is 5 just in case the Solar Scarabs are trying to ambush. But Rapio's being a bit of a solo agent here, trying to see what he can find. And it looks like just some poke attempted towards WorstTurttle. But look at that shield. This is the benefit of building tanky. He just doesn't have so much health to throw.
It's not going to be the weakened left Phoenix that's the target here for the Wargs. It's going to be this right side as Panvich goes in, is able to catch anybody in that Fearless, though. Cxnnahh forced out as well. Doesn't like the look of this matchup. Home sweet home throwing out damage into the Niflheim Wargs. Dazer splitting the fight into half here. Zyrhoes forced out as well. And the Solar Scarabs are blowing a ton of abilities on this defense. Echrome chunked down to about a quarter HP. Rapio finding the final shot. It's going to be Davy. And Rapio combining. Cxnnah gets out easy peasy built different is the solo laner for the Niflheim Wargs, and it's 3 members of the Scarabs with 2 of their biggest damage dealers on the sidelines.
And Cxnnah gets to go back to base, teleport in. Those Oni waves we were talking about took half of the left side Phoenix, and oh yeah, half of the Titan's HP. Cxnnah's back at full, and now it's a 5v3. This right side Phoenix is going to be an afterthought.
And Zyrhoes with no beads as well is going to have to be uber careful here in the base defense. It's a 3v5. The Niflheim Wargs moving into the Titan and taking out the Solar Scarabs in a clean 2-0, going unscathed here in day number 1. And continuing their streak of taking out the Scarabs.
Wow, Cxnnah looks a lot more shocked at that end than I would have expected from how he played. Hands in his head, just exhaled, like he just did so much work, which he certainly did. But again, even though they were down in kills pretty much the entirety of that game, the Wargs, those side lanes, you just look towards Davey and Cxnnah consistently, they were ahead. They had 1 2-level leads. Cxnnah at one point had a 4-level lead. It was closer than it would have appeared XP-wise, but still, the Wargs played a very dominant set this time around.
And once again, the Wargs triumphing over the Solar Scarabs. The beautiful thing about this tournament is it's double a limb for now, right? So the Solar Scarabs came in as the #1 seed. Even though they've taken a spill here, they still have an opportunity to fight back a little bit later on in the tournament. But Trelly, a couple of crazy clashes we got the pleasure to cast. Let's throw it to the desk to break down this set.
Niflheim Wargs, they do not look like they're going to be slowing down anytime soon. Frog, I have a bone to pick with you.
Really?
I can't trust you anymore.
Well, I did warn you.
You did.
I did warn you.
And that is, the key is giving yourself an out, right? I'm feeling really confident this one could go 3. However, this is maybe where I could be wrong. Niflheim is the only one on this team who deals in absolutes as a Sith might, and he's the one who is constantly getting bit by his own actions. Don't worry, Frog. I still trust you.
He still owes me $5.
That's right. He still owes, and now you're here, and he can cash you in. Frog, you did give the Wargs their credit though, going into game 2 here. The draft looked great from the Scarabs, but the play style of the Wargs felt a bit faster paced. That said, this is a different style of game that we haven't quite seen yet this weekend, where the Scarabs are ahead 5-0 in kills.
Yeah.
But behind in every conceivable other category. They're behind like 3,000 in gold. Cxnnah's got like a 4-level lead somehow over Panvich, a 2-level lead out of the jungle. It took a minute for the kills to catch up for the Wargs, but throughout the early to mid to early late game, the Wargs were in control of the gold and kind of never looked back. The funky half Titan end thing there caught them a bit off guard, but they were able to close it out nonetheless.
They got there in the end, and I think that really differentiates the sort of changes, the farming changes specifically we've seen in 10.6, right? You now have those safe areas of farm, just the camps that you can get completely for free, your own speed, your own red. Those are now worth less, and the neutral farm is worth a little bit more, right? Those XP camps, those side buffs, worth a little bit more. And I think, the Wargs just looking fantastic when it came to farm priority. Once again, I have to shout out Rapio. He is just running the map on these characters. He's the only one picking Camazotz, and in both games he's looked fantastic on it. Even in that last fight where he dies, he makes the space that his team needs. On the Thor, he is not looking unquestionable whatsoever. He's got the stats to back it up as well. You have to find a way to shut down this jungle, this map control that they're finding if you want to try and shut down this SEC powerhouse going into game 2, I think.
Yeah, there's simply too much right now, it feels like. I'm looking at Rapio's KDA from the day today. He's died once in 3 straight games.
Yeah.
0 times in the first game of the day against the Weavers. I am going to do this math. A combined 20 and 3 with a whole mess of assists throughout the first 4 games of the weekend.
It's pretty good.
Rapio. Yeah, not too bad. Look, it's been an absolute steamroll from the Wargs up to this point so far, and means we got to talk to him again for the post-game interview.
I got Predss here with me from the Wargs. Congratulations on your dub here today and going undefeated today. Now, during the SEC, you were the only team to take down the Solar Scarabs. You tied them for the record, but they came in as the first seed. Did you feel like maybe you deserved that first seed coming into this event?
Yeah, I think we probably deserved it. We had a howler week 2. It was absolutely terrible by us. We thought we understood the meta. We didn't. It's just unlucky, really. Then we got graps to it and then dominated, I think.
Speaking of the meta, you guys got the opportunity to play a set this morning, kind of get the feel for it, and it looks like you have a fantastic handle on it. Do you chalk that up to preparation and practice, or is it just something that suits you guys?
Double booking every day for 3 weeks probably helps you a lot. We played SPL teams basically every day, and that really helped us. That's like best practice we could ask for, really.
Absolutely. Now, I got to talk about it. The Titans marching down the side lane. You guys, I mean, if it was 10.5, that was an easy win at that point for the time, right? But Titans marching down the right-hand side. You move into the fountain room. There's no Titan to kill. You guys got to go take care of it. Walk me through that new mechanic and how's it feel to play with?
So we knew they were going to get the Titans, and we knew the Titans were going to push left. So I made the call, yeah, let's just go right Phoenix. Because they're all going to group left because that's what we do with the Titan. We get right Phoenix, no one back. We're like, oh, okay. So we'll just go mid Phoenix. We're like, nice, right, let's go to fire. Because Yemoja stayed by herself. And then we're like, oh, yeah, we've wiped them. Davy's banging on his desk to my right. Let's go, boys, we've won. We go to like Titan and we're like, oh, wait, where is it?
It's gone.
It's not there. And then, yeah, so it's a really fun mechanic. It's really new to the game. It spices it up a lot. I really like it.
And I'm sure you guys won't make that mistake twice. Like, oh,
nah.
Titan's in the other lane.
Never again.
Well, Predss, congratulations on your win, and good luck moving forward. Let's toss it back to the desk.
What a positive mindset. Because that's the type of moment you're sitting there, you're about to end the game. Where is it? Where's the Titan? He's gone. He's over on the right side. I will say, the fact that the Wargs won that game largely dictates how much fun that mechanic felt for the Wargs.
That's probably true. That's probably true.
Would have been a slightly frustrating moment, but they're able to win and does spice up the games for sure. The bracket beginning to take shape a bit as the SEC teams continue to battle it out with one another. Niflheim Wargs spotless, 2-0 over the Weavers, 2-0 over the Solar Scarabs. Hexmambo, they started out their weekend with a 2-0 over the Valhalla Valkyries. The losers bracket, of course, starting to take shape as well. Remember, there's an upper and lower bracket throughout the first portion of Masters. So the weekend's not over for the Weavers, Scarabs, or Valkyries just yet. Up next, though, Frog, we've got Hexmambo, the big 2-0 winners from earlier on today. Clearly playing some good Smite against the Athenian Sages, your #1 seed out of North America. Renjaru, Privative, Nehu, Jangaru, and Snatty. And that's a team that has some history with one another, a team that's certainly very talented. We had standings-wise an upset in this set with the Wargs upsetting the #1 seed Solar Scarabs team. Based on what you saw from Hexmambo, based on expectations around the Sages, are you thinking we're in for maybe another upset in our final set of the day?
I think we're in for a treat, regardless. I think I've learned from my mistake.
That's good.
I don't want to make an absolute right.
That's right.
The last thing I want to do is fall into Mifflin's shoes. That's not a direction to go down. But I mean, the Athenian Sages, they have watched all 3 sets today, right? If anybody has the experience that they've watched attempts at the meta, they watched things fail, they watched things succeed. On the other side, though, it's the Johnny show.
That's
right. And I don't know if I'm rooting against that. We'll have to see what happens.
Hard to see because you look at Rapio for the Wargs. Jungler's been running the show on that side of the bracket. Will the same happen? Sages versus Hexmambo, our 4th and final set of the day. Coming up next.